This is Young Speak Sports bringing to you another podcast for this week. We're going to go over the Open Championship. Was it the best tournament in recent history? Zach Johnson ended up winning and taking home the trophy. But the bigger story seems to be Jordan Spieth and whether he choked or not. Also, Mike Sando of ESPN came out with the QB rankings of 35 league insiders this past week. We're going to talk about some of the rankings, go over them, and debate whether these league insiders got these rankings correct or not. Also, Shaquille O'Neal and Scottie Pippen got into a debate going back and forth of whose team was the best all time, the Lakers or the Bulls. To us, it's not very close, but we're going to talk about that debate as well as give each of our own top 5 franchises with the best all-time squads. For fantasy football, we're going to talk about our love and hate list for the 2015 season, going over some of the booms and possible busts for your team this year. And also an off-topic, we're going to discuss which sport is the hardest to play. And also, including in that, we'll look at maybe some of the hardest positions in sports to play. So we'll start off with the Open Championship here. So we're going to start with just a roundtable thoughts on the tournament and the finish to the tournament, which was one of the best I've seen in recent history. Isaac, why don't you start us off for that?
Yeah. Personally, it was. I think it had to have been just in recent history. Obviously, I don't think it ranks up there all time with maybe like top 5, even top 10 tournaments of all time. But yeah, it was definitely one of the most entertaining ones that I've seen recently. Just with so many guys, even on the last day, being within 2 shots of lead, pretty much. Anybody could go out there and shoot a low score, especially with the players and the conditions as favorable as they were those last 2 days. So really, it was a great tournament. I thought it was a good finish. Kind of disappointed that Spieth didn't really pull it out in the end, but I guess that's just because I'm a homer for him. So yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on
There are a lot of homers for Jordan Spieth nowadays. He's getting a
it.
lot of fans, especially in the younger generation, it seems. We're tending to kind of just draw. He draws our generation for some reason. I don't know if it's something like we feel like we can relate to him since we're young or not, but maybe it's just the Tiger Woods fatigue. Maybe we're over him. We're done with him, and we're kind of looking for that new star to grab onto, to latch onto as the sport progresses.
Yeah, I just really like him because he's young, and then he also seems like a pretty good dude. So yeah,
Yeah.
that also.
Well, to me, this is one of the best tournaments I've personally seen. Maybe not ever, maybe even ever, but definitely for a long time. So in round 3, which was played on Sunday after all of round 3 was postponed with a lot of bad weather on Saturday, too much wind really to play. There were at one point about 44 guys within 5 shots of the lead, which that's more than half of the players that made the cut. So halfway through round 3, nearly 50 guys had a legitimate shot at still winning the championship. That's just how crazy this tournament was. It was the most competitive final to a major I've ever watched. There were 15 to 20 guys within 2 to 3 shots making birdies. It seemed like at will, especially in on the first 9. Guys were going really low, shooting 30s, 31s, with the conditions being pretty easy in the morning of Monday, round 4. But they kind of fell down. A lot of the guys fell apart at the end there, and then we were kind of down to 4 or 5 guys at the end with the last few holes remaining. You had Zach Johnson, who ended up winning the tournament in a 4-hole playoff, and then you had Mark Leishman, Jason Day, Jordan Spieth, and Louis Oosthuizen. Um, I feel like Spieth now the big news coming out of this is Spieth will no longer win a Grand Slam this year. But it's amazing to think that he was so close despite putting the way he did. He had 6 3 putts in total in the tournament. He had 5 3 putts in round two alone, and he ended up shooting 72 that day, which was the round that kind of put him back, even though he shot 66 the following day. So it's interesting that he still had a shot because of his resilience, but the putter, especially short putts, seemed to let him down in the end.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing about that one day, you said the one day that he shot 72, that was the day that the conditions were so windy too, and guys were having trouble marking their ball on the green because it'd come to a stop and the wind would pick up and it'd start moving all over the place. I think it said that he had 37 putts that day, which is totally unlike him. I mean, he's the best putter on tour as of right now. Um, so yeah, even if he shoots a 70 or a 69 that day, I mean, comparatively to the rest of the field, he runs away with this tournament. Um, but yeah, it was kind of a shame that he didn't get down to the last major to kind of decide whether he won the Grand Slam or not. But it was definitely an entertaining tournament.
Hmm. Oh, definitely. And the difference in this tournament, as is pretty much any tournament, was putting. Um, as I noted with Spieth earlier, he didn't get into that 3 man playoff between Zach Johnson, Louis Oosthuizen, and Mark Leishman because of his 3 putts. He even had a 4 putt on number 8 in round 4, which is totally uncanny for not only any professional but a putter of Jordan Spieth's caliber. But the difference in the end again was putting, and Zach Johnson, he made the putts, especially in the playoff. Going into the playoff, he made the birdie on 18 in regulation. That was about a 30 footer, um, which ended up getting him into the playoff. Louis Oosthuizen, he had the chance to win the tournament on several occasions, and the putter just let him down really when it mattered, and really throughout the tournament. Rounds 1 through 4, he just missed a lot of putts in the 5 to 10, 15 foot range that were very makeable and that he did not make, which ultimately I feel cost him the tournament.
Yeah, throwing it over to Nick. Nick, I know you were pretty into this, watching this. Just give us some of your thoughts, your opinions on this tournament.
I really, I haven't had this much excitement while watching um, golf tournament in a long time. I can't even remember. I would say that this was probably up there for me with the 2008 U.S. Open with Tiger Woods. But this was the most entertaining golf tournament I've really ever seen. I mean, I was really rooting for the 5 man playoff, but I was like you guys. I was kind of pulling for Jordan Spieth. He was up and down all day in the final round, and turned it on in the middle of the back nine and broke everyone's hearts on 17 and 18. But I also pulled for Louis once it got into the playoff. But like Hayes said, the putter for Spieth and Oosthuizen just completely let him down. I mean, Zach Johnson played great in playoff, but I mean, this was just a fun tournament to watch.
Oh yeah, definitely. And to me, the unfortunate thing is that Jason Day just seems to come up short so many times in these majors, and it's really not of his own doing. I don't feel like it's a situation where he chokes it away or anything. It's just he's just not quite there every time. He seems to be one shot short. Somebody outplays him at the end. He just barely misses a putt at the end.
Yeah. In addition to everything we've been saying, this tournament especially, and even the last major, the U.S. Open over at Chambers Bay, has kind of given me renewed faith in the sport that it can be really exciting without Tiger Woods playing at the top of his game, obviously. So I think with kind of the emergence of Jordan Spieth, and I know Rory McIlroy didn't play this week, but you've got a lot of young players combined with some vets that have been there for a while that really can play good golf and make it just maybe not just as interesting, but still very interesting, even if Tiger Woods isn't playing well.
I agree with you there on that point. It's I don't think it'll ever reach the pinnacle that it was when Tiger Woods was at his prime
I agree.
because he was just so tantalizing. He was unlike the sport. He was unlike anything the sport had ever seen before him. and it really just boils down to because he was an African American. That's really where a lot of the interest came from Tiger Woods. Not only was he a great player, not only was he the greatest player, but he was an African American in a sport where, for a long time, African Americans didn't even play. They didn't feel accepted, um, and really the interest just wasn't there. So Tiger Woods brought a whole new perspective to the sport. He brought a whole new fan base, and a whole new interest, really.
Tiger
And
made the
let's not forget Tiger he was an athlete. I mean,
Oh
he
yeah,
looked like he could have played multiple other sports, but he just excelled at golf and just took that over. And that fact, along as what you were, as long as what am I trying to say? As well as
Along,
what you were,
yeah,
along with what you were saying, Hayes, just helped the fact that, or helped Tiger just go into this upper level of fame and just everybody loved him. And then, I mean, he was dominant for a while, and then what
what?
happened.
um, yeah, well, Tiger Woods only looked like an athlete really because he started working out and taking. Never mind. But only because he was working out like a Navy SEAL. The story is that he always wanted to be like a Navy SEAL because his father was one, and he worked out with Navy SEALs. He worked out like when he became just huge in the upper body. So that's why he really looked like an athlete. When he was younger, you see him, he was really skinny. I mean, he just, he looks like any other golfer, really. Um, but going to the fame point that you brought up, I was having an interesting conversation with someone earlier today, and it was throughout the world, who do you think the most famous person is? Like, the person everybody in the world knows.
Obama.
LeBron James.
maybe
Yeah, that too.
Oprah, maybe.
No, no, no. That's fair. Literally,
I would
those are
imagine
the.
it's whoever the current president of the
Yeah,
United
yeah.
States
I'd
is.
actually, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
Is that?
That's
Are
a
you
little
talking about
bit
like sport?
biased,
Are you
but
talking about sports person or just like?
person.
Are we limiting it to sports or
No, no,
anyone?
no. Just anyone in the world. See, my problem with
It could
Obama
be Bill
is.
Clinton.
My problem. I think Obama could certainly be. The only thing I question is whether other countries really care about our president. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, we don't.
Yeah,
We
well,
don't really know the
he's a rec
president. We don't really
he's
know
a
the.
recognizable name though.
You could almost.
Like anyone, and pretty much everyone anywhere will recognize Obama's name. Like you
Hayes,
say Obama.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
what you were fixing to say, Hayes, is we don't know the president of this country somewhere else, whatever you were going to say.
but
But
I know
understand
what you're
the
gonna
fact that
say. I know
that
what.
country is not the United
I
States.
know.
I
I
know we live
understand
in the
that.
United States, so it's more important to us, but we kind of, and I know I'm going to sound like a typical American here, but we are the powerhouse right now. Like everybody knows who we are. And along with Russia, I mean, everybody knows who Vladimir Putin is just because he's making the news here and there for this and that, but let's not delve into politics or else Isaac will go out on a tangent.
Yeah, I'm just gonna.
But
Um,
well, and the people that were brought up in that conversation were Obama, Oprah, LeBron James, and Tiger Woods, actually. So you guys pretty much nailed who I was thinking of.
yeah, I mean, four pretty recognizable names.
Yeah.
I just don't think
And
as good
here,
as.
and the crazy thing is, sorry to cut you off there, but I
Oh, go
wanted to
ahead.
go ahead and add this was, and this is not any kind of racist thing or anything, but all four of those people are African American.
Huh.
Yep.
Didn't even
Do you feel
realize
like
that.
there's any kind of relation there? Like,
But I think with Obama's case, it just happened to be he's the president now. I feel like once Obama is out of his presidency, Obama's name will be replaced with whoever the next president is.
well, I don't know if
I
If
don't
you
know
people
if
get what I'm
that's
really,
saying.
I don't know if that's necessarily true though. I think people still know the name.
I
because,
mean,
well, and he,
nobody talks about George Bush anymore.
Well, because
Nobody.
nobody wants to talk about
well,
George Bush
but
Exactly.
anymore.
But Obama has one thing that George Bush doesn't have, and that's the fact that he's the first African American president.
Right. It was history, so
Yeah.
he is kind
That
of on
is true.
another level.
I
So,
understand what you're saying now.
yeah.
But
Um,
and it's the same thing with Tiger Woods. He was outside of VJ saying, I know he's from another country, so I'm not sure if he identifies as African American or not, or whether he's an African American or not. But Tiger Woods was the first really great African American golfer, and Tiger Woods made the game like really cool. Golf was never considered a cool sport. The stereotypical comment made about golf is it was an old white man's sport played by guys in khakis. Um, but yeah, Tiger Woods made the game just really cool. It was fun to watch, and not just for African Americans, but for whites too. I mean, I love Tiger Woods. He really changed the game. I think definitely for the better.
I mean, he really made the sport.
He really did.
I mean, he really did.
I would argue that he is the most transcendent athlete almost ever in history.
Oh,
I think there's I mean, I'm sure there was somebody I'm overlooking,
Like
but
you're saying the person transcends the sport, like as far as their notoriety goes.
I would say,
Yeah.
I would say like the most influential
Yeah,
yeah,
athlete.
sure.
Okay, because I was fixing to say I'm pretty sure Tony Hawk far
No, no, that's wrong. That's
professional
no,
skating.
not even close.
I'm not saying he's on the level of Tiger, but in relation to popular sport and popularity of athlete,
And people made Michael Jordan be more
Maybe,
transcendent than he
but
actually
like
was too.
the reason
the
the
point
reason Tony
spread.
Hawk is so the reason Tony Hawk is so famous though is because he landed a trick called the 900, which nobody had ever done up to that point. Other than that,
No, everybody
there's
does it.
people there. It's fairly true. Have you ever heard of Nigel Houston? Dude's absolutely insane. He wins every single
Skate.
like skating
X Games,
skating competition and everything like that. Yeah, because he's just absolutely insane, and I would argue he's better than Tony Hawk right now than Tony Hawk ever was.
but
Like,
nobody
he's
knows that guy's
just
name.
absolute-
Everybody knows who Tony Hawk is.
Well, and Tony Hawk got
That's
his own
true.
video
That's
game,
also
so
exactly. There's no Nigel Houston
That comes along with
underground or Nigel Houston. But you talk to anyone who's like big into skating, into the world of skating, they know Nigel Houston. Like
But if you
people
talk
ask,
that
why?
wasn't the argument though.
who's not big into skating, they're going to know who Tony Hawk is. They're not going to know whoever you were
We
just.
weren't arguing who was better, but we were talking about transcendent, and Tony Hawk really kind of fits
Yeah.
that category.
yeah.
It's
Without-
transcendent for making it popular. I don't know about transcendent for changing the entire sport.
No, I'm saying he transcends the sport. Like he's more popular than.
Like he was beyond the sport. Like
yeah.
I'm not saying he changed the sport.
yeah,
Tony Hawk was
where he
super
made it.
skating
He's
into
just
mainstream.
I'm not the only one who played that game, was it? Am I? The Tony
No,
Hawk?
No, no.
All right,
absolutely
good.
not.
I'm good.
Hawk Pro Skater.
Going back to the good old days. Man.
Tony Hawk's
How did-
Underground. That was like the best one.
How did we get off this? How did we get on this tangent?
We get on a lot of different tangents, but
We
they're
do,
good tangents.
and usually I have to bring us back.
Yeah, well, you guys actually got into the conversation because it went away from golf. That's why.
Yeah, there we go. No more Tiger, and this happens.
What happened? Speaking of things that aren't golf, let's move on to the next subject.
Well,
Hayes, you want to introduce that?
Not yet. I want to ask one more question.
Okay, Ben and I are going to go silent again.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead and go sit down for a minute here. Jordan Spieth, will he become the greatest golfer to ever live?
no.
I'm assuming the greatest golfer. I know there's a lot of different things like basketball wise when you're making the comparison between LeBron and Michael Jordan. There's a lot of different things that you can look at, but when you're looking at golf, it's pretty much just like who can win the most majors. So I'm assuming like greatest golfer ever because Sam Snead's won the most tournaments, but we don't really talk about him as being the best ever. So I'm just going to assume going off the most majors, certainly I think that Jordan Spieth can do it. There's a lot of really young talent right now, so there's going to be intense competition for a lot of the majors. But Spieth's a different player, as we've seen just this year. So I don't see any reason why he can't be. He's only 21 years old, so he's got plenty of time. So yeah, I definitely think there's a pretty good chance.
It's just hard for me to put him as the greatest golfer ever. I just can't. Even though Tiger, I mean, we have put him in such a pedestal and just that how he's transcendent. But he's not gonna. He's the type of player that won't be like Tiger and kind of like just completely drop off. after playing so well. I mean, he's only 21. He's playing.
But
Just incredible.
Tiger dropping off was a whole bunch of different issues. It wasn't just like all of a sudden he was like bad and he just wasn't playing well. I think he had a whole lot that happened, and we all know with like
I don't know. It
all
was
of his
actually
scandal.
it was pretty fast. He
All of
kind of
his
like
scan.
But he did take off
But
a long amount of time in between.
that's what I'm saying, because of his scandals and everything else. I don't think it's going to be quite the same for Jordan Spieth. I don't think we're going to be sitting here saying, "Oh, look, Jordan Spieth had an affair with this person,"
well,
and now
and
he's
that's
playing
why.
bad.
Allegedly.
I don't think we can necessarily say that, because when Tiger was at the top of his game and he won the U.S. Open at Pebble Beach by 10 or 12 strokes and broke the 4-day course record there, I don't think that any of us thought, even if all of this came out that he was having an affair, that his play would drop off.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, really, this could happen to anybody. I don't know Jordan Spieth personally, obviously, so I don't know what his personal life's like. He seems to be a pretty good dude. But I don't know. I really think that kind of thing could happen to anything, because golf's such a mental sport. But yeah, I don't know.
I see Jordan Spieth as being like one of the most consistent golfers that we'll ever see, and he's going to become one of the all-time greats by the time his career's over. I just can't right now. I can't say that he'll be the greatest ever.
Yeah, that's completely fair to say. And right now, he's in his 3 legitimate years of playing so far. He's got 5 victories, 8 second place placings, and then top 10s. He's got 29 top 10s and 48 top 25s out of approximately like 75 tournaments, which is amazing considering he's just starting his career. He's turning 22 this week. I agree with Nick. It's hard to say that he will become the greatest ever right now, but I think it's getting there. Down the road, you can see it because of his consistency and his longevity. His composure, his mental ability, his mental game more than anything is top notch. Considering, I mean, the kid is only 22 years old. He's just graduating from college. He would have just graduated from college this past spring. And he is competing on the highest level of golf in the toughest mental sport there is, and just doing it better than really anybody else. And he's only 22. Imagine how much he'll grow in just the next 5 years even. So I think he's different from Tiger because, let's face it, Tiger is not morally the best person in the world.
He was kind of all over the place. He was prone to kind of like outbursts on the course, and a lot of golfers were. But Tiger kind of had a flair for the dramatic when he was out there, so you can kind of see that.
And I mean, as far as we know, everybody said Jordan Spieth is a good guy. He's not like Tiger, and that might change over time when maybe he gains even more fame. I don't know, but as of now, that consistency and the ultimate longevity. I mean, he's probably got at least 15 to 20 more years of good golf in him.
Oh, yeah.
He's only 22, and he's already done what he's done so far in 2 to 3 years. And he's the number 2 golfer in the world. I think there is a strong possibility that at least he gets to Tiger's rank, because he's already doing what Tiger has done he's doing it pretty much at a younger age too. And I don't know if he'll ever pass Jack, because that's really tough to say, but I think there's no doubt he's going to end up being a top 5 golfer of all time. I am completely confident in saying that.
Yeah, I would agree with that too.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot can happen in 15 or 20 years, but I agree with that.
I mean, as long as
everybody's in agreement.
As long as he doesn't have an affair with like 20 plus points.
Oh my goodness! Can we move on from golf? People are bored to death. They're sleeping by this point.
I was about to say, I kept trying to interject to make the transition there.
Hey, you go back and play some more 2K. I got some more golf to talk about.
Yeah, I still beat you at 2K.
Yeah.
What does that have to do with anything?
Back to the podcast.
What does golf have to do with anything?
Golf
Watch
is life.
versus. Anyway,
All right, so we'll go into a topic that Christopher and Ben can actually discuss, so they can
and
get
people
off
want to listen
their little irritable issues. Mike Sando from ESPN. So yearly, this is his second one. Last year he had 26 league insiders. This year he had 35. Rank their NFL quarterback rankings among tiers. So there's 5 tiers. They break it into down like tier 1, tier 2, etc., etc. And so we're going to go down the list and discuss some of these rankings and maybe even compare it to my list that I created a little over a week ago now. So coming in at number 1, we have a tie somehow between Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. Blasphemy?
That's just bad.
Yeah.
It's bad. Whoever didn't say Aaron Rodgers is out of their mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tom Brady is a great quarterback. Will go down as one of the all-time great quarterbacks of all time, if not the best quarterback of all time.
No,
But
let's not get too hasty.
Yeah, exactly. I'm with
Tom,
Chris on that.
He's got 2 or 3 years left, but Aaron Rodgers
Spygate.
by far is
Shut
the
up.
best quarterback.
Deflategate.
Shut up.
Cheating. A lot of cheating.
It's not even that. It's just that honestly, like
Bill
honestly,
Belichick.
if you that's true. But if you're like,
If that's your reason, sorry Ben for a second. If that's your reason for saying Tom Brady's not a great quarterback, then I don't know if you have any credibility on the subject.
He's a great quarterback, but he's not the greatest quarterback.
I'm not gonna say
because
greatest of all time.
Sorry again, Ben, but because of the failures of his organization makes him a bad quarterback. That's just a fallacy.
Considering he's at the forefront of that franchise and he's the face of the franchise and what they've done.
You think
I mean,
he
it's
was
partly his
deflating the
fault.
balls? You think he was filming the other team's practice?
Okay, here's the thing about here's the thing. Let me get in here for a minute.
Wait. You're telling me you
You
don't
must
think
be
shut
quiet
up.
for Ben now. I interrupted him twice.
You're telling me you don't think Tom Brady knew
Hey,
about filming?
let Ben talk.
That's what I was gonna say. Is I agree with what you said about Spygate and about the filming. Like it wasn't Tom Brady. I don't think there's no evidence that it was Tom Brady who was saying let's go film their practices. But with the balls, to deny that you didn't feel a change, there's only 2 people who touch the ball on every single play. That's the quarterback and the center. And so to tell me as an NFL starting quarterback that you're not going to feel the ball is a little bit different from what it normally is when you touch it every single play and then it's not deflated. And I don't care if he didn't ask the guy to do it, but the fact that he touched it every
We're
single
talking about Deflategate
play
again.
and that's what I'm just saying. This is what I'm just saying. The fact that the fact that he touched it every single play and says he couldn't feel a difference is total lies. I don't care if you didn't ask him to do it. He didn't say anything to the referee about it or didn't say anything to anyone about it. So that just makes him almost equally as guilty as the people who actually did have the balls deflated.
And by Hayes's point, that means because one game he says he didn't feel the difference of the pressure. By Hayes' point, that makes him a terrible quarterback.
You don't think?
Anyway, we are getting off topic
come out
again.
here.
We are
Come-
getting
no,
off
no, no.
topic. We are getting off topic, and we're talking about Deflategate. I'm tired of talking about Deflategate. We talk about it every podcast. Can we
This is
please get
only-
back to this initial subject at hand?
This is
I don't
only
think
the
we've been-
second podcast we've talked about Deflategate.
It's like
Yeah, I
the
don't think
19th.
we've been
We're talking about Tom Brady
I
here.
don't-
Go back. Okay, you're telling me the fact that Adam Vinatieri, one of the best kickers ever, won them 2 Super Bowls. Bill Belichick, arguably the best coach in the NFL history.
Nope, Vincent Lombardi.
Spygate
One.
and Deflategate, and Tom Brady absolutely knew that the balls were deflated. That is a complete fallacy that he did not know that. You're telling me a guy like him who throws footballs every day for a living cannot tell the difference between that? That's a
I never
total
said
lie.
that.
And
All right.
there's no way that the ball manager is just going to deflate the balls on his own.
All right,
I'm
whatever.
not
We're
saying
getting off
that.
topic.
Hey,
We're getting off
turns
topic.
around on
I'm
me.
enjoying this.
I'm just saying.
Turning it around
There
on me.
are-
You're making a different point that was never even started in the first place. You made it up yourself. I never said that.
You did say that. You
No.
said
All right,
that.
all right, all right, all right.
So,
We're getting
okay.
off topic here. We're getting off topic here.
I say we're all in agreement
already-
that Rodgers is above Brady, right?
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
let's move on.
Okay.
Andrew Luck
you.
was
All right.
third.
Mr. Luck is third, and he's deserving of it. He's going to be the best fantasy producer next year. I'm going to go ahead and say that.
Nope, wrong. All right.
This isn't fantasy football.
We're
But
going to
yes,
get
I
Fantasy
agree.
football comes later.
later, Hayes. It's how podcast works.
I know. I'm talking about. We're not talking about fantasy football.
All
These
right.
are real life rankings. But yes,
So
I
let's-
agree. Andrew
Nah.
Luck is third.
Agree.
Yes.
Agree.
Yes. Okay. Good. I'm glad
Or
everybody.
on the other
agreed.
hand, I have a problem with. No, I wouldn't say a problem, but I just don't think Ben Roethlisberger is fully deserving to be the fourth.
Who would you put ahead of him?
I would put Manning and Breeze ahead of him.
Okay.
I wouldn't.
There you go.
I'd put Manning ahead. I wouldn't put Breeze right now.
I agree.
I could see Manning ahead of him, but honestly, I see Roethlisberger as the number 4 right now.
And why do you say that?
I mean, just look at what year to year he produces for the Steelers. Sure, they may not be doing the best right now, but that's not Ben Roethlisberger's fault. It's the team around him. I mean, sure, he has
Yeah,
Bell and Antonio Brown, but still, he needs
their defense is awful.
line and he needs a defense.
Their
It's not the
defense is not
Steelers.
awful. It's
Yes, it
It's-
is. Come
it's-
on,
It's
Hayes.
solid.
Hayes, you know their
It's solid.
defense is bad when one. You know their defense is bad when one of the. I will go out and say one of the best defensive coordinators in the league, Dick LeBeau, resigns from their defense. That's how you know they're bad.
2 years
Just
ago.
watch Snoop Dogg's vines.
Yes, but this isn't 2 years. This
No,
isn't
no,
2
no,
years
no, no,
ago.
no.
This is currently.
No.
Snoop Dogg's vines for him to discuss on how bad the Steelers' defensive situations
You
are.
cut me off too quickly. 2 to 1 years ago, they were pretty bad. I agree with you there. They were not the normal Pittsburgh Steelers, but they're starting to get more of an influx of youth talent in there. They're not a bad defense.
That's because they forced their veterans to retire.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's because
They're
Troy
not a
Polamalu's
bad
not playing
defense.
safety. It's because Troy Polamalu's not playing safety anymore, blowing assignments.
I know. Last year, they weren't a bad defense, though. They were about
They were
average.
very average.
Yeah. Very
Yeah,
average.
but still, even still, an average
That's-
defense doesn't win you games.
And that's
There-
why Ben Roethlisberger was forced to throw it 608 times, and he tied with Breeze for the most passing yards last year with 4,952. So he almost threw for 5,000 yards.
They tied the exact
Yeah.
same yardage.
Yeah.
That's insane.
And how is this not deserving of the number 4 spot?
Oh, I'm not saying he isn't deserving. I'm just going and putting that out there for this debate.
I think though, if you're gonna look at the teams, I think the Saints and the Pittsburgh Steelers are very much equal as a team overall. I think the Saints have a slightly worse.
No.
I think they have a slightly worse
No,
defense.
Saints are worse.
Saints are by far worse.
Saints are so bad right now.
The Saints finished third in the worst division in football last year. Maybe the worst division ever in football.
And then
Last
they
I would
traded
say
away
I-
their best offensive option.
Yeah.
I mean, Drew Brees is their team right now.
Yeah. And I'll admit, putting Drew Brees ahead of Ben Roethlisberger was a major stretch.
Yeah, I do.
Back.
I would like to put Manning over Roethlisberger, but just based on, I don't know. I'm torn on that because if this is last year, Roethlisberger, I think statistically definitely did have a better year than Manning. I think really, I'm trying to look at this objectively, but just I keep going back to all the past years and Manning's pedigree and all that. It's just I don't know. Roethlisberger honestly probably does deserve to be above Manning just based on last year's performance. So yeah, I think either way I wouldn't have a problem there. The problem that I would have is Drew Brees at 6. I had Drew Brees on my fantasy team last year, and trust me, Drew Brees was not a top tier quarterback. I would move him down to tier 2, and I would move
Rivers.
Really?
I want to say
No.
I would-
If you're going off
Brees-
last year he was lights out through I mean, for nearly
Yeah,
the
but
entire
his
season.
second half of the season was just an interception party.
You guys do realize Drew Brees wasn't actually that bad last year.
Exactly.
I thought, off of your initial thinking, you really do think he was bad, but again, he led the league in passing, and his defense was, I mean, absolutely atrocious.
Did he
The
really
rest,
lead the league in passing last year?
yeah, he and Roethlisberger tied.
Oh, right.
Just to clarify,
Hey,
I
look at
wasn't
this.
saying that
That
Rivers.
offensive line. Sorry, I'm cutting everybody off this
You're good.
podcast.
Fine.
But that offensive line is terrible, and they just traded away their best offensive lineman to the Chiefs, nonetheless.
Well, they did
Look,
draft. They did draft a couple offensive linemen though
true.
as well.
And who don't know who they get that guy from Seattle in the Jimmy Graham trade as well.
Scherzer.
They got
Unger.
Max Unger.
Scherzer.
Yeah, that's
Scherzer.
it. That's what I wanted to say, but I wasn't sure if that was right.
Yep. To me, it's really close. This is a good debate because 4, 5, and 6 are really close for me. It's hard to really say. You can't go
Very-
wrong with any of them, I don't think.
I'd agree. So moving on to tier 2, he put Phillip Rivers followed by Russell Wilson, and then Romo. Interject if you have an objection.
Okay.
Romo at 9,
Russell,
Flacco
I'm
at
gonna-
10, Ryan at 11, Manning at 12. All right, there's an interjection.
Let's stop right there. Okay. Everybody wanted to make the case about last year, and it should be off that. If we're going off last year, Manning deserves to be on the bottom of the second tier at best.
Hold on a second. Well, this isn't really based on last year. This is just going into this year. This is like the quarterback rankings right now.
You just said it's not. Never mind. Never mind.
Yeah,
It's the most confusing parameters ever.
It's not. No, I said this is the
It's not
QB
based on
ranks.
last year, but it's based on going into this year. But it's not based on the past at all. But it's
No.
based on the past, but
No.
not at the past at the same time.
It's based
Based
on
on the future of the past and then the present at the same time. That's why it's called.
Shut up.
It's based
Oh
on
my
their
God.
entire career. It's not just like, okay, this is what happened last year, so
Based on
we're
their
gonna
entire
rank
career. Why is Manning not number one?
Yeah, exactly.
Eli Manning.
Peyton.
Aiden.
Peyton.
Oh,
No,
we're talking about.
Here's the reason. Here's the reason. If it's based on their entire career, that Peyton Manning's not number one. Granted, he's too far down. He should be like number 2 or number 3. Then, if it's based on their entire career,
No.
But it's because Aaron Rodgers has the highest quarterback rating of any quarterback ever right now.
No, time out. When I say it's about their career, I'm talking about if you're going into this NFL season,
like their potential for
these
them.
are the rankings for this NFL season.
I would still
Up
put
to
them
this
lower.
point,
I would-
up to this
even then,
point,
I would
based
still
on
put them lower.
the off season, based on the free agency period, based on the draft, the team as it stands now,
And their
these
pass-
are the best quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Precisely.
So where do y'all think? Nick, you said that Manning should be bottom.
I would say I would put him at the bottom of the second tier, like either the last 1 or 2 guys on the second tier, not 2.
Okay.
I
Would
would
you
replace-
put at?
I would replace Manning with Tannehill. Honestly,
All right, hold on.
I don't know.
No, I maybe after
I
this
wouldn't
year.
put Tannehill up
Tannehill's
there yet.
incredibly undervalued. He was a top 10 quarterback last year, and not many people realize that. Hayes realizes that because he's a Dolphins fan.
Hashtag truth. All right, maybe not top 10, but he deserves to be
he's
way higher in this list. We'll get to him in just a second, but I have an issue here on the bottom of tier 2. I need someone to explain to me. I am an Eli Manning hater, yet I don't understand how Matthew Stafford is tied with Eli Manning.
I don't either.
They're very similar players.
Why does everyone hate on Matthew Stafford?
Okay.
Come on, he's not that bad, guys.
No.
Can
I don't
say
think
why?
he's. Go ahead.
Matthew
Isaac.
Stafford might have the most talented. He has one of the most talented supporting casts in the NFL, and he
Wrong.
still can't manage to take a team to the
Wrong.
playoffs.
No.
Their offensive line.
No.
Their offensive line is no good.
Offensive line is garbage, and they had no running game.
They had Reggie Bush last year and Joique Bell. Both of them are good running backs.
Reggie Bush is
They are
not a
good
running back.
receiving running backs. They are good receiving running backs. They are not handed off to them, and they are not. If you hand it off to them, they're not gonna.
But that's not the offense.
They're not
No,
gonna
no,
get a good run
It
game.
is like the receiving running backs. That's a better supporting cast for a quarterback.
Yeah, their offense. They
When
like
it goes
to
to his stat wise, obviously, but
Yeah,
like
but
football
Reggie
60 times.
Bush couldn't stay on the field. That's the problem. Is
Okay,
he's never
moving
around.
past. Okay, I'll give you
argument
that.
we're
Hey,
making though.
even if you do have that, the receiving running backs aren't a better fit for their offense where they throw it 60 times a game. You look at their wide receiving core, Golden Tate, an above average wide receiver. He's a good wide receiver. I'd say that.
Then a guy by the name of Calvin Johnson's there.
Calvin Johnson, maybe the best wide receiver to ever play the game. By the time
No.
he's done. By the time
By the
he's
time
No,
he's done,
wrong.
okay, I can see that.
No,
maybe.
no.
Maybe.
Could argue
I can see that.
in the
I can see that.
That would be a reasonable debate.
He has
Maybe by the end of his
the
career.
potential to be because I mean his size and he's just insane.
Yeah, but that's another thing you have to factor in though is that he's his size and he's bigger than anyone else.
Okay.
So if Jerry Rice was that size,
But he
how
wasn't.
much better would he have? If Jerry
Yeah,
Rice was that size, how much
I
better would
agree
he have
with
been?
Isaac.
You can make
but
that
he
for
wasn't.
every player.
I mean, if I was 6'8", 300 pounds, I'd be playing in the NFL. It's just not something you can like.
If ifs and buts were candies enough, we'd all have a wonderful Christmas.
Yeah, no. He has
My old science teacher used to say that.
he has a great supporting cast, and he doesn't. I mean, he throws for good yards, but he also throws the ball upwards of 50 times a game. So he doesn't comparatively on those standards. He doesn't have that great statistics numbers. He turns the ball over too much, and he can't take a team to the playoff. He's been to the playoffs once, and he has a great supporting cast around him.
Well, and I'll tell you why this is perplexing to me. Okay, Matthew Stafford and Eli Manning are essentially the same type of quarterback. Incredibly inconsistent, tend to throw interceptions, but yet at the same time they could throw for like 400 yards any game. Eli Manning has 2 Super Bowls. Stafford has 1 playoff appearance. How are they the same?
Here we go. You're confusing the parameter again. This is the quarterback. These are the best quarterbacks based on how the team is currently standing, not their entire career.
No, these are just if you were starting a team, who would you take?
I didn't think
Aaron
We
Rodgers.
changed the meaning of the list
I
17
didn't think that was
times.
the
No.
I thought it was going into the season. Who are the top?
It is how the roster
Yeah.
stands currently.
Yeah. No,
Not if
no.
not
We're
if you would start.
ranking.
You're changing every time you say what it's about.
No.
Let's be honest,
I
we just
told you.
butchered this entire topic.
No, I told you guys at the beginning. This is ranking the NFL quarterbacks among tiers, like based on their ability.
Just solely based off their ability.
Yeah,
And yet again, you've changed the meaning of the list.
I have not changed the meaning of the list at any point. This is the same.
From how the team stands now to their entire career to their skill set.
No. You made that up about
Listeners,
how
if you're even listening, if golf isn't turning off to this point, back me up and listen to the amount of times Hayes has changed the subject.
I never changed the subject.
We're
Not
up to
subject.
we're up to 4, Chris.
We're up to 4? All right. Anyway,
You are changing the subject in your own mind.
get to the 2 things I wanted to say. I love how Alex Smith is perfectly in the middle.
No,
He's a
wait.
perfect representation of the
The
team.
incredibly overranked Matt Castle. I mean, I know he's second to last, but still.
31, incredibly overranked.
Castle is.
Yeah,
Wait.
now since we're kind of out of like the top, I
You're
mean, we went through 14. 14 was Cam Newton. I personally think that Carson Palmer at 15 should be above him.
Time
Yeah,
out.
I agree.
Time out. This is where I have a big issue. 15, Carson Palmer. This is ridiculous.
You think
What
that's
are you
too high?
talking about?
Why is Carson Palmer at 15?
Oh,
He's
so
so
even-
terrible.
Look at Hayes. Compare the Cardinals before
He's a
he got
mix-up.
injured. 9-0 looked like they were going to get the first seed in the NFC. Compare the Cardinals after they got injured. How many games did they win? Was it 1 with playing a third string quarterback and a
Okay.
second string quarterback?
I think they
Let's just go.
You're literally going from average to literally nothing. Like the Cardinals had nothing after Carson Palmer. That's
That's his point.
completely.
That's
No, the quarterbacks were so bad that you can't even make that argument.
Carson Palmer wasn't bad though. He was. If you look at him where he was standing, he was about
Carson Palmer
I
looks
agree
great.
Wrong.
I agree with
You're
Ben.
wrong, Hayes.
Carson
I agree.
Palmer.
I agree with Ben.
Carson
You're wrong,
Palmer.
Hayes.
Carson Palmer looks good because the rest of what they had was so bad.
Then how
That's-
did Stanton and
They were 9-0.
then
You're
how
gonna tell me that was based on Carson Palmer?
I don't think
Not
so.
their
Yes.
defense, not the
It-
defense playing as
Okay,
one of the best
okay.
defenses.
No,
in
I'm
the
not,
NFL.
because if the
They gave
defense,
him 5 last
if the
year?
defense was so good, they would have won more games after Palmer. It wouldn't have mattered who they threw back there.
They scored like 3 points a game.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
That's only proving my point, Hayes.
Patrick Peterson is not going to score 30 points a game alone on defense.
The quarterbacks were so bad. I mean, you could have thrown like high school quarterbacks.
Really,
You're
because
literally- You're
Old
literally
point.
Drew Stanton, Logan Thomas. I can't even remember the other guy's name. He was so bad.
Skelton, I believe. Maybe not
no,
Skelton.
No.
Skelton was like a couple years ago.
Oh,
Not,
apologies.
Oh my gosh. Ryan Lindley. That's his name.
That's what. Yeah.
Are you kidding me? And that
Hayes,
brings me
dude.
back to another point. Carson Palmer gets injured. He is injury prone. You're gonna tell me you're gonna take Carson Palmer over Ryan Tannehill, Dalton,
Yes.
I think Andy
Bridgewater,
Dalton's incredibly
I'd take him
overrated.
over
I'd take
Kaepernick.
anybody over Andy Dalton.
Kaepernick.
I'd take anyone over Kaepernick. Really, yeah. Kaepernick's
And Kaepernick.
incredibly overrated.
I'm with you there. I
Season,
hate
and he's
Kaepernick.
not good.
I hate
Let's just
Kaepernick
say
is
Kaepernick
overrated.
not good.
But Carson Palmer he's not good.
You're wrong, Hayes.
Look at his statistics, even in his glory days.
He's good.
Oh my
If you-
God!
even
I'm
in his
gonna pull
glory
up Carson. I'm pulling up Carson Palmer's stats.
I already
from last
have him
year.
for you. I already have him
Situational
for you.
again.
I already have him for you. He throws for 4,000 yards a year. In 2013, he threw for 22 interceptions.
That was a bad year.
Was he on the Raiders? Was that the year he
No.
was on the
Okay,
Raiders?
that
That
was
was
the year he was on the Raiders.
No,
We can-
that was
Yes, exactly.
that's an outlier.
Hey, are we talking about their
No.
entire career,
No,
or
no,
are
no,
we
no.
talking about the
No, we're
team
talking
as
about
it
whether he's
stands,
a-
or as we
Okay,
talking?
but
Or
Hayes, he was before he got injured.
this is the
Look at him.
weirdest.
He was 11 touchdowns. He had 11 touchdowns to 3 interceptions before he got injured.
Yeah,
He had 1,626 yards.
yeah.
Come on,
In 6
That's-
games.
that in 6
Exactly.
games.
Yeah,
That's
you
really
stretch
good.
that out. You stretch
Touchdowns
that
a
out.
game.
You stretch that out over 16 games, and it's like 4,000 yards or under 4,000 yards.
Okay, but look at once again.
32 touchdowns.
But-
Okay, also look again.
They
Look
were
at who he
balanced.
had as his wide receivers. His
Larry
best wide receiver
Fitzgerald.
is an over the hill Larry Fitzgerald.
He had Larry Fitzgerald, Michael
Larry Fitzgerald
Floyd,
passed his
and
prime.
John
He was
Brown.
like 33.
Yeah,
And John
but
Brown.
Larry
Okay.
Fitzgerald is a shell of the old
Oh,
Larry
Hill
Those
Fitzgerald.
are
never got
three-
the hell.
Those are
Who?
those are 3 good wide receivers.
Oh my god.
Larry Fitzgerald's no longer good.
Larry Fitzgerald over the hill.
I would agree. Because I did write an article where I said that John Brown was going to break out this year, and that he really was going to have a good year. But still, Hayes, I wouldn't rank them up there as like really good. Like I don't think they're going to be really good.
They're better than average. I will definitely.
But yeah,
tell you that.
I would agree.
A
I
lot
would
better
agree with
than
that.
average.
I would agree with that. You're taking away from the fact that
perception, then Matthew Stafford should be the best quarterback because he's playing with the best wide receiver.
Do you think
Wait,
that?
what?
True.
Do you think?
Just by your own standing.
No. I said Carson. I said Carson Palmer was bad, and he has good wide receivers. Why does that make Matthew Stafford?
Hayes, I think you should quit. You should quit right now because you're outnumbered here.
No, okay.
I might be outnumbered, but
Big
you're not
shove
going to change my
yourself
opinion
in the
that
hole.
you
No,
are
okay.
not going to tell me Carson Palmer is a better quarterback than Ryan Tannehill right now. That is complete
Yes.
blasphemy.
I'll tell you that just because
I-
Tannehill's had one good year.
He's had
I've
already
2
said
good
this.
years. He's had
Hayes, I've already said this. They ranked Tannehill wrong. That he should be at 12 and Manning should be at 17.
I would agree with that. I'd switch them.
well, then that's my issue here. I'm saying Ryan Tannehill is much better than
Okay,
Carson
but
We
you
Palmer.
weren't talking
you-
about Ryan Tannehill. We were talking about Carson Palmer.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
Carson
we were
Palmer.
talking about Carson Palmer, and then you said, "Would you rank Kaepernick or would you rank Kaepernick or
We're not
Dalton
saying
behind
we
him?"
rank Carson Palmer ahead of Tannehill, but we agree with where he's at. Or something
Okay,
that
yes.
should be a little bit higher.
Here's the question:
So-
outside of Hayes, because he doesn't believe that Carson Palmer is that great. Do y'all think that Carson Palmer should be ranked ahead of Cam Newton and in tier 2?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
I think
Yes.
top of
What's-
tier
what's
3 is
Cam-
good. You're
what's Cam
just an
Newton done?
Arizona fan, so calm down now.
I think
I'm
if
not.
you look at
I'm saying Alex Smith is perfectly ranked. I'm a Chiefs fan. I'm not saying he should be number 7.
I think it's ranked right unless you kind of want to like change the tiers and just add one more guy to tier 2.
I would agree with
I'd be
I
that.
fine
think
with
his
that.
ranking is like pretty much.
Top of tier 3, bottom of tier 2. Not much middle ground there.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so moving on past Dalton.
Why do
Yeah.
we? Why do?
Hayes.
Carson Palmer,
Hey,
man.
stop.
He's
Hayes, it's
35
over.
years old. He's gone through shoulder injuries.
Oh, so
and
now the
ACL
parameter is based
injury.
on age.
Yes, because you're talking about going into this year.
Okay, so by that standard, Brady and Manning should be at the bottom of the list because they're both 38.
No,
No,
but
no,
that's
but
why.
Add
Bridgewater,
Gresham,
Mary,
you're
Hayes
telling
is
me-
39.
Bortles.
But you're telling me Manning and Breeze have fallen down a little bit because they're older, or so-called going downhill because
Well,
they're
if
old.
that's what you're saying because you're saying Carson Palmer's bad because he's old.
He's
By
going
that
downhill
Manning's
fast.
the worst player.
No, he's going downhill fast because he's getting older. That's correct.
Okay, so here we go. We've talked through 19. That's Andy Dalton. So we're moving on to 20 and 21. That's David Carr and Jay Cutler. They're both tied, according to this ranking.
I'd put Carr ahead of Cutler.
That's an insult to Carr.
Yeah,
I'd
it
put
really is.
Cutler a little bit lower on the list. I'd put Cutler even behind Nick Foles. Cutler's just so bad.
Okay, so you would have him at 22, and number 22 on this ranking was Nick Foles. So then after Nick Foles, you have 23 Sam Bradford.
Rest in peace, knees.
Yeah, he's tied with Teddy Bridgewater.
People
and then-
undervalued Teddy Bridgewater way too much, just like they did on draft night. He's the best. He was the best rookie quarterback last year.
Well, that's no one's arguing with that.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think-
So then he
Dang.
needs to be above Carr.
No,
Oh,
not necessarily. I
If he
think
was the
Bridgewater
best-
was the I think Bridgewater was the best last year, but I think Carr just had such a bad team you couldn't see what he could actually do. And I think
this year will be.
Are
a
you
big
saying? Are you
indication.
saying the Vikings were good last year?
I think they were
I'm not
better.
saying the Vikings were good, but I'm
in the
the
circumstances.
Raiders weren't good. We know the Raiders. The Raiders wouldn't have been picking number 3 if they were good.
I think these next 2 years will settle the debate between who really kind of was the better quarterback coming out of that, because you see this year Teddy Bridgewater is going to have Adrian Peterson. That's going to take a lot of pressure off him in the passing game, so maybe some more stuff will open up and some play action passes. And then David Carr is going to have Amari Cooper this year. That's definitely going to help him. He threw for, I think, like an average of less than 150 yards per game last year. So, I think these next couple or 3 years is going to be a big indication of who's going to be ultimately better. So then after
Which is
Teddy Bridgewater, maybe it is, maybe it's not. After Bridgewater, you have 25 and 26, which are the top 2 picks in this draft. Mariota going number 2 to the Tennessee Titans, and Jameis Winston going number 1 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, obviously, you don't really have any sample size of which to base them off of, so those are pretty much unknowns. People have argued at length over who's going to be better, but nobody's really going to be able to tell.
I think they should be flipped, though. I don't think Mariota's a better quarterback than Winston.
I don't think right now he is.
This ticks me off. How do you put Marcus Mariota over Winston?
It's a 1. It's a 1. Please.
It doesn't
The only
It doesn't
case you can
matter.
make is that Mariota is probably going to be a slightly more efficient quarterback.
I could see that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but I think
people call Eli-
it's a
Don't listen
scheme
to
fit
people.
right now.
Jameis Winston will probably be a better quarterback in my mind, but I mean Mariota will be the sole definition of efficient.
Yeah.
He's the next Alex Smith.
Agree.
Okay, so
then
after
you want wait. So you want
Oh,
the
okay.
epitome of average and
No,
Marcus
I'm just
Mariota?
saying he's efficient. We're going into this season.
yeah,
Yeah, I know.
Mariota probably won't throw as many interceptions this year, but he also probably won't throw for as many touchdowns or yards. So it's kind of
He's
give and
very
take.
raw though. Jameis Winston is
That's
so
also because-
much further ahead in his progression.
That's
as an
also
NFL
because-
Hey,
quarterback.
that's also-
hey, we finally have a podcast where there's not a topic about FSU. Let's not spend as much time as on a former FSU quarterback. just because
when-
Hayes wants us to.
When you put Marcus Mariota above Jameis Winston, that's an issue to me.
It's one spot, and it's the bottom of the list.
And you really say that.
I don't care. It's just
Although Winston
I'm not
has
agreeing
more-
with it, but I'm not making a giant case about it.
Yeah,
It's irrelevant at this point. We haven't seen them in an NFL game.
yeah.
Get over it.
I mean, they might as well be listed as tied on that at 25
Yeah,
and 26.
That's my thing. Why
Let's just
would
leave
you-
it at that and move on.
You haven't seen either of them play in the NFL. I don't know why they aren't tied. But then moving down on the list, this is actually really insulting to these next 5 or 6 quarterbacks, mostly because they're ranked behind guys who have never played in the NFL before. 27 Blake Bortles, who was a rookie last year.
Granted, he played on the Jags.
Yeah, exactly.
I
He has
almost-
no supporting cast.
Just because of that fact right there, I would almost put Bortles ahead of Mariota Winston.
well,
Yeah.
he had more of a
Because
supporting
Bortles, I feel,
cast.
is actually a decent quarterback, but I mean, he plays in Jacksonville.
For everything that Bortles had going against him last year, I don't think he had a terrible year.
I agree.
I mean, he had no running. Denard Robinson was his running back last year.
Yeah,
That was their
Was
go.
it-
And
They
his
didn't-
number
they
one
don't-
receiver for
they
like
don't have bad
first
wide
2 games.
receivers. Allen Robinson's actually
They have
a very
guys-
good wide receiver. Granted,
They have
he did
really
get hurt.
raw wide receivers that need to be developed.
They had
But
a
the wide
bunch of
receivers
rookies.
can't get the ball when Bortles has no time to throw it.
Also, that then there's no running game, so
and-
guys can just pin their ears back.
And well, his pocket presence wasn't exactly the best either. But that's another issue. But
Well, that's
yeah, I
because
understand.
he hit.
I understand.
Well,
Well,
But
he wasn't. Here's the thing
understand
about Bortles. Here's the thing about Bortles you have to take into consideration too. He wasn't supposed to play last year. Their whole plan was to keep him on the bench for a year to let him progress and let him develop. But Chad Henne just played so bad that they were just finally like, all right, you know what? Fine, we have to make a change, and so we're gonna have to put Bortles in. So he wasn't even supposed to play last year.
That is
I
true.
would,
It's
dude.
probably
I'd take Matt Castle over Chad Henne. As a Dolphins
Blasphemy.
fan,
Blasphemy.
Chad
Blasphemy.
Henne-
Blasphemy.
Chad Henne
No,
is
no, Chad
absolutely
Henne's-
awful.
That's just because you're a Dolphins fan and you're
He's
biased. 'cause
so
he
bad.
Screwed your team over.
He's so bad. No,
I'm also biased in the fact that Matt Castle screwed my team over, so I can see that point. But no, Matt Castle was a worst.
At least
the Chiefs
Matt
were
Castle.
decent though when he was on.
His
there.
last 2 years though with the Chiefs were terrible. That was the year where we almost went completely defeated, and the year where we cheered the fact that he got injured.
oh god, that's awful.
Well,
Yeah,
you're
that
telling
was
me
bad.
at least
He went down with an ACL injury, and the crowd went insane.
Oh
At
yeah,
least-
I remember reading about that. That was
Well,
bad.
that's when like the offensive lineman was it Eric Winston went
Yeah.
off, started crying in the locker room.
At least,
Yeah.
at least Matt Castle had one good year
Oh,
in
man.
England.
Matt
Like
Castle.
Chad Henne,
I'm glad you have.
Chad Henne lost out to like Matt Moore and Chad Pennington.
And Pat Devlin.
No. He didn't lose out to him. No, he's not that bad, but
I think didn't Pat Devlin get moved to like wide
well,
receiver?
he's still no, he's still
I
like
think I thought he was in the
No.
CFL.
Is he a
he's
quarterback?
gone. He was a quarterback.
He
Yeah.
was
Really?
Penn
Oh,
State
you're
backup.
you're
for-
thinking of Pat White, I think.
No,
Okay.
I was actually thinking of Pat Devlin.
Okay, I was thinking of Pat White
Yeah, I think Isaac was thinking.
because he was
Oh.
on the Dolphins as well. Am I right?
Yeah, no,
He was.
Pat White's a wide receiver now.
He
You're
was,
right.
he was
Okay,
drafted
okay.
in the second round by the Dolphins.
The second round.
Yeah, how about
Wow.
that?
That's
He
interesting.
was a dual threat quarterback.
I mean, yeah, so was Justin Thomas, but he's not about to play quarterback.
That was Tim Tebow. Now can we move
Blake
on, please?
Bortles-
All right.
Yeah,
All right.
Blake,
Winston, we
if
shouldn't
Blake
be setting
Bortles
this much.
if Blake Bortles can't beat out Chad Henne, I'm just making this final point, then he doesn't deserve being in the NFL. So, but yeah, I still going to the Mariota and Winston case. I have an issue with people saying that they don't deserve to be over like not 31 or 32 because they haven't played in the NFL yet. Like that's the whole point of projecting. That's like you can use your eyes and you can see. That's why you drafted them first overall. I mean, I understand they haven't really proven themselves yet or anything, but you could. I mean, come on, you can use your scouting. You can tell these guys are going to be pretty good in the NFL. If you had the choice between Winston or Geno Smith right now, you're not going to take Jameis Winston.
Yeah, it'd be Winston by far.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean that's the kind of idea I'm getting here. So
Yeah, so here's the one at 28 that kind of made some waves today on the ESPN talk shows. 28 was RG3, which I completely.
I'm gonna go off on this. Okay, I am a Redskins fan. I watch them every year, all 16 games in the season, and I think RG3 gets a lot of unnecessary hate. Granted, he mouths off, he does all this stuff that you shouldn't do as a starting quarterback, but I think if you're talking about Alex Smith as a definition of a mediocre quarterback, I think RG3 is right up there with the consideration because if you look at his years,
Whoa.
they're not bad. He's not bad. He hasn't had like really great seasons like he did in his rookie year that he won Rookie of the Year and just was awesome and was starting the conversation. Our dual threat quarterback's going to be the new thing in the NFL. They're not, but and I don't think he's necessarily that bad. I think he gets too much hate because he mouths off and because his years have been worse. But he did incredible things that if you look at his injury that he had that year, he's not Adrian Peterson. Nobody expected him to come back and have, or should have expected him to come back and have a year like he did his rookie season. Like that's too high of an expectation for somebody coming off of his second ACL surgery. That's just not what you need to expect from him. And to rank him at 28 is, I think, a little bit premature. I think I'd put him ahead of a couple of these guys on this list, and because I don't think he's bad. Like he granted not as many touchdowns, but their defense was god awful, and there's just so many things about the Redskins that are just terrible that make me want to sit there and pull my hair out. So to call RG3, put RG3 at 28, I think that's wrong, and I'm not saying it because I'm a Redskins fan. I'm saying it because he gets a lot of unnecessary hate. I don't think he was worse than Cutler last year. I really don't. I don't. But to put Cutler ahead of him, I think I don't think he should be there because he wasn't worse than Cutler last year. He didn't throw all that many interceptions in the grand scheme of things. He wasn't worse than some of these guys on this list, and I just don't understand how you can put him there.
Okay, here's my thing with RG3. He had a great rookie year, unlike a lot of what we've seen so far out of rookies. But he's also a spread option quarterback. He's not fitting the bill of an NFL pro style offense, which is okay. But at the same time, now you have defensive coordinators who know how to defend against that, and that showed last year. Granted, I don't think he was healthy the entire year, but I mean, Ben, you may even, I mean, actually, you definitely know more about this than me. I don't think that that RG3 had a great year. I think 28 probably fits the bill for this going into next year. I think the Redskins may stay exactly where they were last year. I don't see them really improving as much. Really, they may win 6 games instead of 4 this year. But yeah, I don't know. I think 28 is a justified ranking.
I don't know about that because you say that you don't see them improving, and I can agree with that. But I can also say that's because there's a lot of other factors. Like we haven't had a good safety in years, and I think something that should help him a lot this year is Brandon Sheriff drafting him. We haven't had a good right tackle, and I can't even name you how long. Our only guy who's good on the offensive line is Trent Williams.
Sure.
And Trent Williams he's an all-star. I'd put him up there as one of the best left tackles in the league because he matches up with everyone and he protects RG3 so well, but after that everybody, and I think the rookie year, that offensive line, none of those guys were guys you would consider really good, but they all played well above what anybody expected from them.
Also, here's my thing about that. You look at the Falcons last year, Matt Ryan, offensive line, same situation. You had our starting left tackle get injured, placed on IR. You have our starting center get injured, placed on IR. 2/5 of our line were guys that weren't supposed to see the field this year because they weren't good enough. But Matt Ryan, you still see him ranked at 11.
But that's because Matt
Ryan Tannehill, for Pete's sake, he had 2 of his linemen get kicked out of the league basically because one was bullying the other and the other was sensitive.
But that's all. But that's also here's
They
the
lost
thing.
Pouncey. They lost Albert this past year, who they paid over $50 million to at left tackle. They started a rookie at left tackle. Ryan Tannehill has had the worst offensive lines in the past 2 years, and he still had the best year of his career.
Here's
that
the
just
last
speaks volumes.
Was his best year of the career to par of an average year of Matt Ryan?
Oh, I'm not debating him against Matt Ryan. We're just talking about in general with RG3 and his line.
Here's the last thing I'm gonna say about this. They've been RG3. We all saw him come into the league as a dual threat quarterback, someone who could make plays with his legs as well as his arm. But after his injury, they've been trying to transition him into a pocket passer, and that's been the most difficult thing for him. So
and that's why he's 28.
I think to compare him like that to Matt Ryan, who had the same situation, I think RG3 is just not as comfortable as Matt Ryan. Like Matt Ryan's bread and butter has always been dropping back to pass.
They're different quarterbacks.
Exactly.
But the fact that he had to transition, it slowed him down. But that's why he's 28. It's like Mariota is going to have to transition.
But
so
I also think he dislocated his ankle. I think it was in like week 2 against the Jaguars or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was watching that game. He was making the same plays. He almost looked close to what he was in his rookie year. Like I think he looked solid. His week 1 was neither really good nor really bad. But his week 2, he came out. Granted, it is the Jaguars, but he came out. He was improvising again. He was making those throws on the run. He was getting outside the pocket. He was dodging defenders like we saw. And I mean, you can give it a little bit of leeway because it was the Jaguars, but he looked like that RG3. And I think it's just every time he gets injured, he loses all of his confidence, and that's the problem. A full RG3 with confidence, I would put him. I still think he wasn't worse than Cutler last year. I think Cutler was still worse than him. So that's just what I'm gonna say on the subject, and call me biased if you want because I'm a Redskins fan, but that's from watching all 16 games. That's the impression I've got of him.
No, and you do probably know more about RG3 than me. But that being said, moving on. Number 29 is McCown, Luke McCown, I believe.
Josh McCown.
Excuse me, Josh McCown.
Where is he now?
He's in Cleveland.
That is correct. Yes.
The current starter for the Browns. We're at 29. I don't really have a problem with this. I don't
think any of us are debating these last 4.
I think 29.
He shouldn't be on the list, even though he technically, by a technical sense, he should be, but by a Castle sense, he should not be.
Matt Castle's so bad.
Anybody else above McCown that's left?
Yeah, McCown's pretty awful. Like, okay, considering McCown and Castle are currently not even pinned down as starters in Cleveland and Buffalo, kind of tells you how bad they are.
Castle's not even fighting. He's not fighting for a starting job at this point. He's starting for a roster spot.
No. Matt Castle he's supposedly the starter in Buffalo.
He's fighting for a roster spot.
We don't know who's going to be the starter in Buffalo.
McCown is trying to take out Johnny Manziel, who's
They pretty much already said he's starting preseason game 1, obviously. But
yeah.
They pretty much penciled him in as a starter.
Like,
okay,
Boyer's gone.
At 32, do you see Geno Smith being the worst of this list?
Absolutely.
Geno Smith has been so bad.
Maybe not. I don't see him
I'd
being
still take him
worse than Castle. I'd take him over Castle.
Yeah, I'd still take him over Castle. And
I don't even know about that right now.
No,
I mean,
I hate Castle with a fiery passion that just goes
Geno Smith will be better, and I think he'll have a better year. But after what we've seen from Geno Smith, I can't put him above Castle.
I disagree. I disagree because I think Geno Smith has shown flashes of potential. There's times where he's looked like he could be a starting quarterback, and then there's times where he's looked like god awful and like the worst quarterback in the league. So I think he's another one of those inconsistent quarterbacks who just hasn't proven himself. But I don't think he's worse than Castle.
The cons actually far outweigh the pros in Geno Smith's situation, though.
And for Smith, at least, I mean, come on. He had to deal with Rex Ryan, who isn't really exactly an offensive guru, to say the least.
They've never had a running game. They haven't had a running game in forever.
Yeah, and their best wide receiver.
He still only averaged, 8 completions a game? And
their best wide receiver was Eric Decker, and after that, there was nothing.
Eric Decker's a solid slot receiver, but
I don't even care at that point. I mean, he was still just bad.
He was bad. There's no doubt about it. Josh McCown and Matt Castle. Ugh.
I would put
Yeah.
McCown above.
Josh McCown is the Matt Flynn. Was the Matt Flynn of last year. He has one good year filling in for a quarterback, and all of a sudden he's awesome and he deserves a huge contract.
Like, did you see him against the Falcons
That was pretty
on
awful.
Thursday night?
That might have been the worst professional football effort performance I've ever seen.
Yeah, I watched that game too.
You didn't watch the Monday night game between the Chiefs and the Patriots.
Okay, that was pretty bad.
Tom Brady was pretty
No,
tough.
I watched both of those games, and Tom Brady.
No, I take that back. The Falcons Tampa Bay game was much worse.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Tampa Bay was awful. Like
That is true. If that Falcons team puts
Like
up
the
that many
Falcons-
points on you,
The Falcons were bad, and they beat the Bucks by like 50.
Yeah. Which you don't see that happening in the NFL. That doesn't happen.
wasn't it the largest win on any Thursday night game ever?
yes,
Probably right.
And it should have been
Again.
worse.
I can tell you the largest win on any Monday night game ever was the Redskins Eagles because I had to sit through that when Michael Vick just became godlike. Oh my God, that was awful.
Yeah, I remember.
Before Vic resurrected.
I remember that. That was when Mike Vick had like over 50 fantasy points.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, that was insane. When like friggin' oh my God, like
Yeah.
oh, it's just that might have been my most painful moment as a Redskins fan. Besides watching RG3 bust his knee in the playoffs.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on to our next topic. Hayes, why don't you introduce this one?
Yeah, so Shaquille O'Neal and Scottie Pippen got into a social media debate here, and Shaq started it. I'm not, what a surprise there. Basically, he's saying that the Lakers' all-time team.
You're wrong.
It's better than-
That's not what happened at all.
Well, that is precisely what happened. Basically.
No, that came out of
Okay.
their debate. Their debate
Well-
was like basically Shaq
Well,
was saying that Scottie Pippen was nothing without Jordan, and
Right.
Scottie was saying, "Hey, I still won 6 rings, which
Right.
is twice as many amount that you won in LA." But Shaq's point, like I said, was saying that those were Jordan's rings.
Well,
Scottie really didn't do much, and Kerr and who's the other guy that he said? Ron Harper deserved more credit than Scottie.
see, Christopher, I was going to say that before you kind of cut in,
No,
but
you
yes.
said
I
that their
said-
debate with the Lakers.
It
were
was about the
all
all-time squads and how
They
Scottie
said
Pippen
that.
the media was the one who made the all-time squads.
Okay.
They were the one who pulled that out of the argument
Okay.
because that was never argued between Shaq and Scottie.
Yeah, what we're going to talk about is the all-time squads idea here because we understand the sidekick is perfectly true. So
Yeah.
go ahead and give me your top 5 franchises who have the best all-time squads.
All right, I'm going to go first just because I feel pretty prepared for this. I'm going to go number 5, 07-08 Celtics. That was when Paul Pierce, KG, and Al.
No, I thought we were doing
No.
all-time squads.
We're doing all-time
Yeah.
teams, not
Oh.
teams for a year.
Okay,
Like,
never mind.
Are we
never mind then. I'm not prepared.
Are we
I
naming,
can start. I'm kind of winging it, but I can start.
Here's a question first. Are we naming like
players?
all the players? Yeah, or just
No,
the teams
it's just
that
like
we
the best starting 5 from a franchise.
Like the Lakers' best starting 5 is according to the media was Magic Johnson, Kobe Bryant, Elgin Baylor, Shaquille O'Neal, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. That was their 5.
No doubt, number 1.
Yeah, the Lakers are totally number 1. No discussion.
And that the next part is when it gets shaky though, because
I think
then you
this-
have
I feel like number 2 is pretty solid. For me,
think
it's the
it's-
Celtics. The
Yeah,
Celtics.
Yeah, I was gonna say the
Say-
Celtics.
no, yeah, I would say I had the Celtics too, but I'm just saying. I mean,
I think-
obviously Celtics would be Bob Cousy. Obviously Larry Bird at small forward,
Havlicek.
Not Robert Parrish.
Kevin McHale and Bill Russell,
Bill Russell,
And
then
Havlicek.
Havlicek.
Havlicek, and then the third I have the Sixers.
I do too.
Yep, I agree
Allen
there as well.
Iverson.
Oscar Robertson.
Well,
No, not Oscar
No,
Robertson.
excuse
no,
me.
and
Julius
the,
Irving.
Julius Irving,
Yeah, okay,
Charles
there we go.
Moses
Barkley.
Malone,
Charles
Moses Malone,
Barkley.
power forward, and you could even throw Charles Barkley in there too. But you'd have Dikembe Mutombo at center.
Yeah.
No,
I've got Wilt.
I don't know.
Yeah, I was thinking to say there's
Oh,
a man
Wilt.
by the name
Well,
of
I'm
Wilt
saying-
Chamberlain
Okay,
played for the
since it's not with
Philadelphia
the Lakers, but I'm just saying
Warriors at that point.
he's kind of like in between the Lakers and Sixers.
Well, and the problem with me though with the
Would
Sixers,
put Kareem with the Bucks too. The Bucks would have.
the problem with me for the Sixers is they don't have a shooting guard. Like they've got a lot of big men. They got
Allen
4 guys that are
Iverson.
good.
Allen Iverson. Allen
No,
Iverson.
I got Iverson at point guard.
He's not a point guard.
No.
He played some point guard, but his primary position was
Point
He's got
guard.
handles. He's not a point guard.
Point guard for the 76ers, Drew Holiday.
Oh my god.
Well, who'd you
Tony-
put on
Tony
point guard
Parker.
then? Okay,
Michael Porter Williams.
point guard / shooting guard. They have a void.
I'm
So-
sure there's some guy that we're forgetting.
Well, no,
I had Billy
throw Sam
Cunningham.
Cassell in.
Jelly Bean Joe Bryant.
What about Billy Cunningham?
No.
Okay, here's a team that a lot of people probably wouldn't think of, and that's the Orlando Magic.
Very
with-
true.
Yeah.
Penny Hardaway, Tracy McGrady, Grant Hill,
Shaquille.
Dwight Howard, and Shaquille O'Neal. That's
That
a
was a good one.
legit starting 5.
Yeah.
How about
The Spurs have to be in there.
yeah, I'd agree.
Obviously, I mean you have Tony Parker,
David Robinson.
Manu, George Gervin, Tim Duncan, and David Robinson.
That's a good one.
I personally have the Heat at 4.
The Heat are a good one.
I have with
Tim
Hardaway.
Hardaway, Wayne
Wade.
Wade, Ron James, Chris Bosh, and Shaquille O'Neal.
I don't even have Chris Bosh. in there. I
Alonzo
have
Mourning.
Zoe.
Alonzo Mourning.
Yeah, Alonzo Mourning would be.
Alonzo Mourning.
Yeah, I have Zoe in there. So I have them at 4, and I put the Knicks at 5.
The Knicks
But-
have a good one.
There are
Walt
so
Frazier.
many. I think there are so many that are right there on.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think the Seattle SuperSonics were pretty.
That's another team I was gonna say.
Sonics have Durant and Westbrook.
Yeah,
Kemp, Ray Allen.
Kemp, Kevin Durant would be in there.
Gary
Sean
Payton,
Kemp. Yeah, Gary Payton. I think
Kevin Durant.
Kendrick Perkins.
Ray Allen.
Kendrick Perkins.
Ray Allen.
Yeah, no. Well, the problem with that team is that they don't really have any superstars.
Yeah, they do.
Kevin
Sean
Durant.
Kemp.
KD.
Kevin
Sean Kemp.
Durant, technically.
Sean Kemp
but
and Gary
when we're
Payton.
talking about all-time greatness, we don't even. None of us even had KD in the top 50.
That's true. Well, that's because it doesn't deserve to be in top 50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
but here we go. Other teams. I mean,
I think the
just
Hawks are
for-
actually up there.
yeah, I mean, eh,
I mean,
they would underperform.
They get to the Eastern Conference Finals and get swept.
What our point
I
guard?
get it.
Wait.
I get it because the Hawks underperformed this year. That's
no,
They're-
they
Don't
always
You
underperform.
don't understand. It's an Atlanta sports team. They underperform every year.
Yeah.
The Rockets wouldn't be bad.
I understand completely because that's the same way with the DC sports teams. We always underperform, whether it's the
What if-
Redskins or the Capitals.
Yeah, the Rockets were a good. Rockets is a good team with
Hakeem Olajuwon, Yao Ming.
Yao Ming. Wow. Ooh.
Even Dwight Howard.
Yeah.
They'd have quite the.
You could technically throw. I know you.
And Charles Barkley.
For this, Stephon Marbury, point guard.
And T-Mac.
Yeah.
I mean, you have T-Mac obviously in there, but
Kenny the Jets.
yeah, I was about to say that.
James Harden. I mean,
Robert Ory was good.
Charles
Kyle
Barkley.
Lowry.
Clyde Drexler played there.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Kyle Lowry.
Yeah, there's a lot of these.
There are a lot
pretty
of
much
teams.
right there.
That's because we're throwing in players like that have played for like 3 different teams,
That is true.
and we're putting them on everyone.
The Nets would have they
Kid.
would have Jason Kidd. They would have Julius Erving. Who else would they have? That's about it.
Brooke Lopez.
Ooh.
Darren Williams.
No,
Yeah, let's
Hey,
not.
Hey, if yesterday's gameplay was any indication, you guys will see that. You guys will probably see that tomorrow. But anybody listening to this, but yesterday's gameplay was any indication, I think Darren Williams needs consideration.
Yeah, true. But the Utah Jazz actually, they would have a good one with Stockton,
Malone.
with Malone, with oh man, I had another name in my head just
you
now.
have Hornacek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like Maravich.
Can't
Yeah.
forget about Enes Kanter.
Hey, hey,
Oh man.
Greg Ostertag.
Derek Favors.
And you might laugh at Greg Ostertag. He's their number 1 center all time. Like he would be on that list.
Huh.
Give the Warriors some time and
Well, the Warriors would be all guards though.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be Steph Curry,
oh.
Rick Barry. You'd
Oh,
have Tim Hardaway. You'd have Chris
Chamberlain.
Mullin. Mitch Richmond.
Yeah,
You
just
don't have any power forwards.
loaded with guards.
What about
Wilt
what about
Chamberlain.
Portland?
Portland would be
wouldn't really-
Bill Walton,
Clyde,
Clyde.
They would have Lillard, Clyde,
Lillard.
and Aldridge. That's about
See, I have a
it.
problem putting
And
Lillard
Bill
in
Walton.
there.
I wouldn't put Lillard in there.
I would.
Who
I
else?
would.
Oh wait, Terry Porter. I guess that's the only other option at point guard, pretty much.
I just don't like putting Lillard in there.
I don't. I think we could do this for pretty much every team in the NBA. Like I think the majority of them have some sort of starting lineup that we could say, or some sort of like all-time greats that we could say, oh, these guys would be awesome.
Yeah, at this point, we're just naming the.
Yeah, we're just naming every team.
Yeah, so that.
But top
that
five,
makes-
I think obviously Lakers, Celtics, Sixers,
and then it kind of gets
Spurs
murky.
right now.
Cleveland.
Well, the Knicks. If you were to put the Knicks in there, would
Yeah,
you put
I mean,
Bernard
I think
King?
Knicks would be five.
Would you put Bernard King or Carmelo?
No.
I feel like I'd
so
put
good.
Bernard King
Because I mean, you'd have
because Carmelo's
Pat
just
Ewing,
too
Bernard King, Willis Reed, Walt Frazier. Oh,
Yeah.
And Jerry. Or wait, no, not.
I mean, I guess you could technically put like King or Carmelo at shooting guard, but
I think I think the Supersonics were still solid though. If you
but not
throw them
not
in there.
top five though. Yeah.
Maybe
If you put them above the Knicks, you're wrong. You're wrong.
maybe I'll be
Yes.
controversial.
No, it's not controversial. You're wrong.
Hey, to each their
see,
own.
I love the Spurs big men, but I just don't really buy Tony Parker in this debate.
Anywho,
What? I'm
He's-
saying
I wouldn't take
I wouldn't
take
ever,
Tony
but I'm
Parker over.
saying-
I wouldn't take
Who else
Tony
would you
Parker
put
over
there,
some of
Steve
the other
Kerr?
point guards.
No, I mean, no, he would definitely be on the team. I'm just saying, like, I feel like
Avery
he brings them down to a certain degree.
no, he doesn't.
He's a Hall of Famer.
No, he
He's going
doesn't.
to be a Hall of
Yes,
Famer.
Mm.
I agree with that. I don't think, but I wouldn't have him over some of the other point guards we've named.
Well, neither would I. I'm just saying he's going to be a Hall of Famer.
Anywho,
So our next topic that we're going to be doing is our top 5 booms and our top 5 busts for fantasy football this year.
let's just all kind of agree on a general top
Yeah.
5 instead of giving out
And
however many people are here times 10 names.
Okay,
No,
can I start? Can I start then? Name one guy who he could go in either category this year.
Go for it.
Todd Gurley.
Nolan Void, he's not going to get to play until late in the year. He's going to be a fantasy no-show.
Is he real? I thought he was going to be recovered.
I don't think he's going to be ready until at least week 5.
That's still
It
enough
depends
time
if
to
they
see.
put him on the PUP list.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. He's mine though. Depending on if he plays, like I think he could be a boom or a bust because we all know because of the knee and everything. But they also just need a solid running back in St.
They
Louis.
do. They do.
I can see Marshawn Lynch having a Maurice Jones-Drew-esque fallout.
Okay.
I don't know about that because that's what they said about Marshawn Lynch last year, and he still produced.
That is true. They also
That's
said
really-
that about
That's
Jamal
a
Charles.
big drop off.
Well,
Okay.
I want to hear. Let's start with our brooms first. Our loves, the people I like this year, and I'll just go through it really quick. I'm gonna have several, so just deal with it. Quarterback: Teddy Bridgewater and Jameis Winston. Big
No
shot.
and no.
Running back: I've got Melvin Gordon, Cameron Artis-Payne, Duke Johnson, Charles Sims, and Amir Abdullah. I got a lot.
Amir Abdullah would be one of mine as well.
Wide receiver: I got Mike Evans, Brandon Cooks, Martavis Bryant, Allen Robinson, John Brown, and Dorial Green Beckham. And then at tight end, I got Austin Seferian Jenkins, Eric Ebron, and Josh Hill.
Those are some pretty good ones. I just have 5. Just 5 players. So Andrew Luck,
Exactly.
quarterback. I mean, I think that's kind of a no-brainer. That wouldn't really be a boom, though.
Yeah, I feel like everybody just knows that he's going to be good.
Yeah. Okay. I have Brandon Cooks is a boom this year. I think he's gonna have a really big year. Jeremy Hill, he had a good year last year. I think he's really gonna break out this year. Joseph Randle behind that Dallas Cowboys offensive line, and then Jeremy Maclin.
Ooh, really?
Yeah, Macklin.
I've got Macklin on my hate list.
I think he's gonna be the number 1 wide receiver in Kansas
Well,
City.
Nobody's
you know what
arguing
that equates. You know what
Okay,
that equates
look, I'm the
to, right?
Kansas City fan here.
That
He's
means
gonna be the number one
Hey,
receiver in
Christopher,
Kansas City.
Christopher, speak some truth. Am I being dumb?
So,
I think
No.
yes.
he's
Yes,
gonna
I
have a
think
good
you are.
year. He's gonna have a good year. He's gonna have a better year than he had last year. I'm gonna
No,
put
he's
it
not.
that way.
Oh
No,
my
Hey,
god.
yeah,
He's
no,
you're
he's not gonna be a fantastic like everybody's got to have him. He's gonna be one of those tier two type of guys who will help win you a game here and there. He's not gonna be the he's not gonna be putting up 20 fantasy points a
You're not
game.
going to draft him as your number one wide receiver.
There you go.
Christopher,
Okay.
you realize Jeremy Maclin was like a top 10 wide receiver last year.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
He was really good
there's
last year.
He
there's
was
no
very-
way. I mean,
He's gonna be better though.
going from Philadelphia to Kansas City as a wide receiver. I mean, that's like that's about as bad as a drop off as you can get.
He's gonna be good.
I think in real
He's gonna
life
lead the Chiefs to a Super Bowl.
he'll be
It's
No,
good.
gonna happen
He'll be good.
eventually.
He'll be okay in real life, but like
The Royals are gonna win the World Series this year too.
if you're
gonna happen.
the KC number one receiver will equates to like 0 touchdowns. So well, that's really every wide receiver.
Let me
will
point
there,
to the fact that we had Dwayne Bowe as our number one receiver last year. Dwayne Bowe is the epitome of awful.
Yeah.
He's not worth any sort of contract. His
This goes-
best offense is catching the ball and hitting the ground.
This goes back to what I said before during the quarterback discussion. Guys have one good year, and all of a sudden, that constitutes an amazing contract. That's what happened with Dwayne Bowe. He had one good fantasy year and one good year in the league with Kansas City, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, he must be because he was the best wide receiver we had this year. That must mean he's top tier.
It's because most guys play out their contract because most guys aren't superstars. So when they get to their contract year, they're really trying to ball out. So most guys
I
have
get
their
that.
best year on their
I
contract.
get that, but people should still take that into consideration, especially with Dwayne Bowe.
No doubt. For my bust this year, I agree with Christopher. I have Marshawn Lynch. It's not for sure. He could have just as good a year as last year, but I'm just saying I wouldn't be that surprised if he kind of had a little bit or a lot of bit of a drop off. I have Julius Thomas as a bust this year. He's left the Colts I believe he's with the Jaguars now. Correct me if I'm wrong.
that's correct.
Julius Thomas left the Broncos, not the Colts.
Yeah.
The Broncos.
I think he just
That's what I
misspoke.
meant. I got the Manning connection wrong. Deshaun Jackson.
Nope, wrong.
Carlos Hyde.
I don't think he's gonna bust, but I don't think he's gonna be a boom either. I just think
Carlos
he's
Hyde and Drew Brees.
My bust.
Drew Brees is not going to be a bust. There's no way. He's the most consistently good quarterback that we've seen in a while. I mean, I know he's not putting up amazing numbers, but every year he is putting up fantastic numbers. I know I just used two adjectives that mean the same thing, but you get what I'm saying. He's consistently putting up. I can't remember the stat,
4,900
but it's like
yards.
4,500 years a yard. Wow, 4,500 yards a year or something like that.
We're so accustomed to him throwing for over 5,000 yards that him throwing for maybe 4,500 yards isn't that great anymore. It's way.
But I think if you're gonna talk about Drew Brees being consistent like that, it's also because New Orleans is a pass first offense and they pass the ball just as much as any team. Like, and
they also
they
My
never
main
have
thing
a
is
running game.
he's not going to have Jimmy Graham there as a safety net this year. That scares me.
and they don't have a wide receiver.
They have Brandon
got
Cooks.
Brandon Cooks.
He's not a number one wide receiver though. He's a slot guy.
And Marquise Colston. They're both.
Marquise Colston is a slight step above Dwayne Bowe.
Marquise Colston is that guy for fantasy players that if you've ever had him on your team, you know exactly how irritating he can be because one of the reasons is because they spread the ball around so much in New Orleans that so many different guys are getting the looks that nobody there ever besides Jimmy Graham ever really has like more than one or two games where it's like, oh my God, he's doing insane. But Marcus Colston, he's the epitome of guys on your fantasy team that just anger the heck out of you because there'll be those one games where it's like, oh, my foot's injured. Let me catch 2 balls for 34 yards. And then the next week, it's like, my foot's fine. I'm going to catch 10 passes for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns.
And of course, he's on your bench.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But
exactly.
I don't think Drew Brees is going to be affected by them not having a lot of wide receivers because in reality they just pretty much produce any kind of wide receiver they want. I mean, they could throw Dwayne Bowe in there and he'd still catch a touchdown pass.
No, it wouldn't. No.
Dude,
Unless Dwayne
Drew
Bowe is
Brees,
standing in the end zone, he is not getting a touchdown.
Drew Brees made Devery
What if he
Henderson
what if
look
he
good.
pulls what if he pulls a Mike Wallace? Anybody ever see that one where Mike Wallace standing wide open in the end zone for Pittsburgh? Roethlisberger couldn't have made it an easier pass. Guy hits him right in the face mask and he drops it.
I did see that.
Oh,
that was
trust me, I'm used to
hilarious.
Mike Wallace by now.
Mike Wallace has the worst case of the drops out of any wide receiver in the NFL. But that's a
Speaking of Mike
discussion.
Wallace, we got on my hate list. Now, take this with a grain of like. It's not. I'm not saying he's gonna like be a bust or anything, but I don't think Big Ben is gonna be as good as he was last year. So I think he's gonna drop down a little bit. At running back, I think I don't like C.J. Anderson, LaShawn McCoy, Carlos Hyde, Mark Ingram, or crucify me, Adrian Peterson. I don't like him.
No, I can agree with Adrian.
Wide receiver, I'm gonna get crucified again. I don't like Odell Beckham Jr. a lot this year.
Say that
Nope.
again. You kind of cut out
I
there.
agree. Odell's overrated.
I don't like Odell Beckham Jr. as
He's
much
not
as
overrated.
as
People
much as
think he's
wide-
overrated because he's known for the catch. If you actually look at what he was doing last year, he was actually
I
a
look
really
at
good
it.
wide receiver.
I look at it, but
His numbers from last year.
I'm not saying he's overrated. I think he's gonna have a bit of a sophomore slump because he's just so hyped up, like the next Jerry Rice or of some sort, like the next greatest wide receiver in the NFL. I think it's going to his head a little bit, and he even spoke a little bit about that. Now I think maybe
No, he's
a teammate of his had gotten onto him about something like that. Correct me if
no.
I'm wrong.
Look, he said I don't know if this is what you're talking about, but he said he hates the fact that he's known for the catch. He'd rather be known for the stats he puts up, which are tremendous, by the way.
Yeah, okay, I'm looking at the stats right here. He had 91 receptions, which is great, for 1,300
perfect time
yards,
to cut
12
it.
touchdowns. But then you have to wait for it. He had a hamstring injury this year and only played in 12 games.
Oh no, his stats are absolutely amazing.
No,
They really are.
I think he may have a sophomore slump as well. I just don't like the fact that people call him overrated.
Yeah, he's not overrated.
No,
I agree with Hayes. I wouldn't go to the extent of saying a slump. I just think he's just going to have like one of those average years.
He's going to have a lot more attention.
I just don't think he's going to do anything spectacular.
He's getting double teamed every single time he
of course.
splits
Yeah.
out this year. It's going to be a lot different this year than it was last year.
He's definitely not overrated. I'm definitely not saying that at all. He's a very good wide receiver, but he's definitely going to draw more attention this year as teams know that he's going to be the guy. They're going to prepare for him. I mean, they got all off season to get ready to learn how to cover him. If there really is a way to cover him, so, there's obviously they'll figure it out. That's why they get paid. But Victor Cruz isn't gonna. That's another situation.
He's dropped off.
Yeah. Well,
And he's torn his Achilles too.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing is, when is he gonna come back? That's
You
the
don't know.
question.
And when he does come back, you don't know how effective he's going to be.
Yeah. So I don't know. You could argue that's a good or bad thing for Odell Beckham, really, because on one point he's the guy, so Victor Cruz isn't going to take targets, but on another hand, he's going to see more double teams because, quite frankly, they don't have anybody else at wide receiver that's that good. I mean, they have Ruben Randall, but
He's not Victor Cruz or Odell.
correct. So, and then I think Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders are going to drop off a little bit this year, along with
I agree
Manning.
with one and not the other.
Which one?
I agree with Emmanuel Sanders. I do not agree that I still feel like Demaryius Thomas is going to have another one of his years because Peyton Manning's throwing to him.
I agree.
I just feel like that whole Denver offense is going to go down a little bit. Maybe they're going to lean on the run a little bit more, and because their offensive line is not going to be very good this year unless they really patch it up after they lost Ryan Clady.
Again.
Yeah. So,
Who's their running back at this point?
C.J. Anderson.
And then they have Monte Ball, but he is the fumble machine.
Yeah.
And then at tight end, I also got Julius Thomas. And then a lot of people like Dwayne Allen, but I just hope he can stay healthy.
Dwayne Allen, obviously, injuries are the thing, but he's also right on the other side is Kobe Fleener. too. I mean, he's not going to put up any huge numbers.
Yeah. Yep. Anybody?
There's so many weapons in Indy right now.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's crazy. Andrew Luck is gonna have some fun with his offense this year.
Yeah.
He's going to the Super Bowl this year.
If only his
He's going.
offensive line can.
No, he's not. No, he's
No,
not.
he's going. He's not going to win. He's going. Next year, he's going to win. It's just a natural
Nope.
progression.
That defense doesn't get better. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah,
It's the natural progression of life.
What Peyton Manning had when he won.
They have to get the defense better before they take the next step.
Yeah, that's what I agree with.
You know who's gonna take him to the next step?
Andrew Luck.
Bjorn Warner.
Oh.
Yes.
Bjorn Werner. Former
Yeah.
FSU defensive end.
But just keep in mind, Peyton Manning won the Super Bowl, his only Super Bowl, with the Colts defense that was ranked 30th in the league.
Yeah, that is true.
Wasn't it also pouring down rain in that Super Bowl?
That it was.
Down. But they jumped out in the gate losing. I mean, they were down 7-0 right away.
That was
Yeah, but they also had the defense also had to play Rex Grossman, who is the worst starting quarterback ever to make it to the Super Bowl.
And they also beat Tom Brady in the AFC Championship.
I think that was the worst Super Bowl I've ever seen in my entire life.
I watched that Super Bowl in a hospital.
Let's not forget
No one cares.
the Denver Broncos versus the Seattle Seahawks.
No,
That's
that was
That
that was entertaining to me. Personally.
That was entertaining. Dude, the halftime show was better than anything else.
Okay,
hashtag left shark.
seeing Peyton Manning have to dive on a fumble for a safety is the first play of the game. Come on, that's good television.
You can't write comedy like that anymore.
No, you can't.
But I like Peyton Manning, so that was sad.
Oh, I do too. It's just, I mean, for any athlete to be as good as he's been for as long as he's been, seeing him walk up to the line and make an audible, and the center hit him in the face with the ball and have a safety on the very first play of the Super Bowl, it's like, come on, you've got to be able to find
Against like the best defense in a long time.
Yeah, also that.
Chiefs. Anyway.
No, the Seahawks are best.
Also in that Super Bowl, you had Peyton Manning setting the record for the most passing yards, completions, and attempts in a Super Bowl, and losing by 30. So that's kind of a weird Super Bowl.
And didn't Demaryius Thomas set the record for most receptions as well?
He did. I think he had like 12.
That's because,
GT boy.
That's because there's been like 4 occasions where a team has lost by more than 30. That's a total guess, but I'm sure it hasn't happened a lot.
Yeah.
But anybody else got any more hate?
No.
No? All right, we'll move on. Ben,
Wait,
you got something?
You never gave it. You always skip over me.
I'm sorry, you were quiet.
It's because I'm not from Georgia.
No, you were just
neither am I.
Neither are like half the people on here.
No one actually. I think Ross Cheshire is the only person from Georgia in our group.
Isaac.
I am.
Whatever.
Oh, okay.
It's because I don't live in Georgia. Whatever.
Go for it, Ben.
I was gonna say one guy you missed who I think actually could be solid this year is Devontae Parker.
Okay.
And I think Miami are still searching for like a receiver that they can really say is like going to be their go-to guy. So I think Devontae Parker has just as good a chance to be that go-to guy this year.
I also think Carson Palmer has a good shot of booming up.
Don't get started on Carson Palmer.
That's all over my chair.
But on Devontae Parker, I'll go ahead and say something about that. The foot injury is concerning me a little bit more than it maybe should. I don't know. I get a bad vibe about it because he had the foot injury at Louisville, and the Dolphins are really looking at Devontae Parker as more of a long-term solution rather than a short-term solution.
Yeah, is Devontae Parker going through training camp phase?
No, he's not going to come back until probably the week 1 of the regular season. Now, he went through OTAs and everything, and he was spectacular against Brent Grimes in those, but after that, I guess they probably got to look at him and realize that he was the real deal, and they're like, we can't let this foot injury linger and possibly hurt him down the road. So they went ahead and put him in surgery and got the issue fixed before the start of his rookie season. So for this year, I question how effective he's going to be in the first portion of the season, because he's going to need some time to get used to the NFL. There's no doubt about that. And then
Okay.
in Miami's offense, they like to spread the ball around a lot. There's a lot of receiving options right now. You've got Kenny Stills, Greg Jennings, Jarvis Landry, Jordan Cameron, and then Parker. So it's like Green Bay, because
It's a lot
Joe.
of guys that aren't great but serviceable.
Yeah, yeah, and so Joe Philbin coming from Green Bay, he's kind of instilling that same kind of offensive system. Bill Lazor coming from Philadelphia, running that kind of up tempo, spread the ball around. You're not really going to have a main guy, producing a lot of yardage, a lot of touchdowns. So for at least for this year, I don't know if Devontae Parker is going to be as great or a bust or sorry, a boom kind of guy. But down the road, I think he could be. If you're in a dynasty league, I like Devontae Parker. If you're in a
All right.
redraft, he's good, but I wouldn't get crazy excited for him because I don't think he's gonna get off to a hot start.
All right, here's my other one, my last one for a boom, and call me biased if you want, but this guy RG3, just kidding. No, it's going to be it's going to be Alfred Morris.
Well, I knew you were gonna say
That
that,
is,
but I just really want to hear your explanation.
I could see it.
I think they have a solid right tackle now. They have somebody who definitely can play right tackle, and Alfred Morris. With the offensive line they've had and just everything they've had that's gone against them, Alfred Morris has been like the one guy who's stayed consistent. He's had since he came into the league, in all of his seasons, um, combined, he's had more rushing yards than Adrian Peterson, and he's had the most rushing yards out of any running back since he came into the league. And I just think been so incredibly consistent. It's only a matter of time before one of these years he's actually leading the league in rushing yards, and I think he has just as good a chance at doing that this year as anyone else. So I think he definitely could be solid and definitely could really like. It's not so much a breakout for him because he's always been solid, but I've been seeing him too in a lot of the mocks I've been doing. He's been getting drafted like late, like third, fourth round, even into the fifth round. So if you're looking for like a guy who can play at your flex and maybe even be like a running back number two, I think he's definitely worth taking a shot at because I think he's just severely undervalued
I can see that,
right now.
but
And
oh, go ahead.
no, and he's just underranked right now. I think I
Yeah,
don't think he gets as much credit as he deserves because he's been consistently putting up the numbers.
What was that
yeah.
stat about Adrian Peterson? You said
There's
he
That he's had
years in the league.
you said he's had more rushing yards than Peterson than.
since he came into the league, since
Well,
Alfred Morris has been in the league.
I mean, Adrian Peterson did kind of miss like all of last year, so.
I know, but that was going back to even before last year.
I know, but anyway, yeah.
Well,
Go ahead, Isaac.
yeah, and Alfred Morris has been great. And you're definitely going to get good value out of him. I'm just wondering, like, how good the Chiefs' interior line is. I don't know, or sorry, not the Chiefs, the Redskins.
Chiefs'
Interior
interior line
line.
is great. I'll not have you say otherwise.
I mean, I know the left and right tackle. Hopefully, with Sharif.
Sure.
Sure.
Excuse me, Iowa.
I know their guards were pretty awful. Am I right, Ben?
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. Pretty much.
What was it?
It's
Lichtenberger?
Trent Williams, Corey Lichtensteiner.
Burger.
Yeah. No. You're not wrong in assuming their guards were awful because
But
they
he's
were.
run behind worse, I guess. So it's only looking up, I guess.
Exactly. Like he didn't have like a guy, and I think it just depends on how well Scherf makes the transition. So like, Scherf makes the transition well. He's got a solid guy to run behind. He's gonna have Trent Williams to run off of as well. Trent Williams is always good. So yeah, no, it's I think he just has a chance this year. He's had a better offensive line than probably he has had in the past, and The one thing I will say that's the biggest note I have on him, having watched him all of his seasons, is that if there's one of those guys, like you would pick Marshawn Lynch or Adrian Peterson as one of these guys too, but Alfred Morris always seems to gain yards. Like he'll shake off the first hit, even if it's 2 yards or so. He'll be able to, if he's going to go down in the backfield, somehow get out of it and keep moving forward to gain positive yardage. I actually have rarely seen him lose yards on a run because he's very good at fighting through the first hit and shaking it off and getting positive yardage.
That's fair to say. I just don't know if he'll ever boom. I feel like he's just going to consistently stay as like a 10 to 15 kind of guy.
He had
But that's
1,600
just
his rookie season. He
like top
broke
10,
the.
like top 10 to 15 running back.
Oh, I don't know. I still think he could be solid though, and I think he has, just like I said, has a good chance at leading the league. But that's just my opinion, and I also a little bit biased being a Redskins fan, but I still think he's right now. Right now, I would put him up there as maybe the best player on our team after Ryan Kerrigan.
That's
Okay.
fair to say.
One
I guess.
one last boom. For me at least, you guys haven't mentioned him, and that's Cairo Santos for the Chiefs. I have a feeling he's going to actually go off this year and just produce massive numbers. And I know you guys are confused right now because I am actually talking about their kicker.
No, I actually knew who that was.
I did
Yeah,
as well.
yeah. I don't know how a kicker can boom, but okay.
It's called sarcasm.
I was
Also,
I was
Chiefs.
I miss you, Brian.
I
Go.
was surely hoping you were sarcastic, but sometimes I try to take you seriously, Christopher.
Come back to us, Brian. Suck up.
You don't
Um,
like you don't like Santos?
I'm fine with Santos, but I mean, come on. You have a choice between Santos and Suck Up. You choose Suck Up.
Well, I
Just
guess he's
because of
just
his
not a
name.
suck up. I'm sorry.
Hey,
That
oh my
pun
God.
is old, overused, and you didn't even use it in the correct situation.
I've never used it, so it's not overused for me.
That is the lamest excuse I have ever heard.
I've never even heard the suck up puns or anything of that sort. So
Your Honor,
I
I've
don't know.
never merged before this,
I don't know
therefore
what
you're
you're talking
illegal
about.
to me.
Hey, you haven't had worse luck with kickers than we have. We cut freaking Graham Gano. We cut Graham Gano, who was actually very solid for us, and he had a strong leg hit. He was pretty accurate. You know who we cut Graham Gano to sign? Take a wild guess at who we cut
Oh,
Graham Gano
who
to
did you
sign.
sign? You signed
Adam Vinatieri.
No,
Albert-
wrong. That was no, it was not Hainsworth.
Oh,
We cut Gano to sign Billy Cundiff.
that's right. Well, that's
Oh,
what
I'm
happens. That's what
about kickers
happens.
now.
I don't know what the Redskins, what Dan Schneider, what anyone over there, Bruce Allen, what anyone was thinking when they did that.
Dan Snyder is the worst owner in
Well,
sports.
think about it.
That's
This is
why.
the
Wrong.
same.
Jerry
Right now
Jones.
is the South Park episode about the Washington Redskins.
This
That's
is the
pretty-
same.
yeah.
This is the same
Washington
guy that gave
Redskins.
Albert Hainsworth $100 million. So, does anything really shock you anymore?
Well, I mean, just the fact that it's Billy Cundiff, like everybody remembers him for what was it, like wide left, wide right against the Patriots in the playoffs.
Yeah,
When,
he wasn't
when the-
actually bad before that. But
yeah,
after that, he's
but
been
then after
terrible.
that, his accuracy just went down the tubes. I'd much rather have Justin Tucker than Billy Cundiff.
Oh well, Justin Tucker's
Oh yeah,
great.
Justin Tucker's a beast.
Yeah, no. But that's just the point. That's just the point I'm making is that we've had the worst luck with kickers. We have Kai Forbat though, who actually he set the record for most field goals made in a row to start your NFL career, 17. So
That's a pretty good number.
I'd rather have Matthew Weeks than Billy Cundiff.
I'd rather pretty
That's
much
a
have
joke
anybody
for
else.
Isaac, but
I appreciate that.
I would not take Matthew actually.
And actually, if you said about worst owner in sports about Dan Schneider, well, I was just seeing a story here too that the Redskins once tried to rent a luxury box to a player on the roster bubble.
Oh, I think it's between right now the worst owner in sports. It's got to be between Dan Snyder, obviously, and then James Dolan.
What about Jerry Jones?
No.
He's okay.
When they were still owning the Kings, the Maloofs were pretty bad.
Yeah, that also them.
I don't know. The current Kings owner is pretty bad too.
He's or who? I mean, I don't know
I
who the
think we'll
Kings
say that.
owners are.
Here's what
They
the
are a
Kings
far
owner.
step ahead of the Maloofs.
Okay, here's what the current Kings owner tried to do when their coach got fired. I think it was Tyrone Corbin who was
Yeah.
their interim
It
coach,
was.
and he told Tyrone Corbin to start the cherry picking offense to play when the shot went up to send one guy back towards the other side of the court to cherry pick and play 4-on-5 rebounding because he saw it at his daughter's little league game and it worked. That is his rationale behind doing that. And he's the owner of a professional sports franchise.
Well, that's also just those like stupid people who've never watched sports but are like, oh, I'm stupid rich. Let me go buy a team.
It's like Steven Ross for the Dolphins, but he's getting better, so I can't complain. But anyway, how that relates to our next topic is in no way relating to our next topic. But we're going to transition anyway to our off-topic discussion
Nice segue.
because it's off-topic. And Andy coming
Oh
into
yeah,
the
Andy's here.
podcast in
Andy's
style.
been here.
Andy's been here the entire time.
I have been here the entire time. I've been listening.
Oh my god.
Listening to you guys banter about
Did
GCP and whatever.
you guys didn't notice who's here?
No, we all knew.
He just was being really quiet over there. He usually, chips in a little bit. We need to know his opinion on these things.
Well, you really
Hey,
sparked my
Andy,
interest. with
Fallout
the-
Survival coming.
It's getting there. I've been working on it like all night from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m.
Andy's making a game for those who don't know.
Yeah, shout out to
That's
Red Leaf
good.
Gaming.
Game
Look it up on whatever that.
Game
web-
Jolt.
There you go. Game Jolt.
it's
It's pretty interesting.
It's just It's been more of a learning experience than a full-blown ambitious project. But I mean, it's something. I'm working on it. It's got voice acting.
Anyway, which sport is the hardest to play, guys?
I was
It's gaming, esports. I mean,
So,
No.
I'm joking.
no.
Basketball.
Let's not go there.
I was
Oh.
I was thinking about this and I misread it the first time. But it got me thinking about which sport is the hardest to break into, and I feel like that could lead into which one's the hardest to play, because that could be one of the reasons that it's the hardest to break into, because not many people are able to get really good at it.
For me at least, the hardest sport. I mean, well, to play. That's basically what you're meaning by to play is to excel at, to get good at. I mean, anybody can play any sport as long as they have the right equipment. I mean, but as for the sense of the question, the hardest sport to excel at and to get better at is baseball, in my mind.
Oh.
I mean,
Basketball.
you're hitting a round ball with a round bat, and the precision of it. I mean, that's just from the batter's standpoint. The pitching
hold on.
standpoint as well.
No,
Do you mind if I cut you off right there? Have you ever been to a Little League game? And then have you ever been to like a boys varsity basketball game? Like, you don't see Little League basketball games. That's because it's such an art to master that no little kids could do it. While I see like 5-year-olds playing baseball just as good as people do today. Like big people.
That's
So, I
because
mean-
it takes longer to master the sport of baseball than it does the sport of basketball.
Yeah, but it's also
I-
it's an art
You
to
need to stop
basketball.
one earlier.
I'll
It's
disagree.
not as much of an art as
This is
baseball.
where
You're
I
just
need
catching a
Ross to
ball and
back.
hitting it. But with
Hold on.
basketball, you're like, you have to like use your brain as far as you. I mean,
You have,
in
you have
my opinion, baseball is one of the most mindless sports there is. All you have to do is just hit the ball as hard as you can, run as far as you can,
but
and
it's
then
the,
catch
it's
it.
the hitting part
Hold
of
on.
it that is important.
Hold on, fellas. Let Christopher make his point, and we'll all make our own points, and then we'll get into a discussion.
The
Go ahead,
fact,
Christopher.
I mean, let alone the fact you're hitting, like I said, you're hitting a round ball with a round bat. I mean, you see baseball players who maybe they weren't good enough to be in the MLB. They go over to cricket. They're hitting a round ball with a flat bat. They're hitting it out of the park every time. So that just adds, I mean, I know it may seem like that has no relevancy to what I'm saying, but that just proves to the point that the fact that they are using a round bat makes it significantly more hard to master and to excel at. I mean, sure, the catching aspect of it and the running aspect of it may not be as hard as other sports, but I mean, the precision and the accuracy and every little thing in that goes into the sport of baseball makes it the hardest to excel at. I mean, to me, there's
But
like almost no contest.
But that's just one thing.
No,
That's just
I
one thing. If you hit the ball, then you're good.
Well, and
But when it comes to like another sport like
Exactly,
basketball,
but
if
not
you master
everybody.
shooting a
Only
basket,
a
you have to
finite
master
amount
defense,
can hit
your
the.
offense, handling.
well, and let me jump in here. I'll go second here. I've actually had this discussion recently, and the person I was discussing this with said baseball, and I disagree, and I'm gonna go with golf, and it's not just because I
nope.
play golf, and it's
Oh,
not
it's so
just because
biased. You're
I'm.
so biased. It's
It's
crazy
not.
biased.
It's not biased. It's fact, and I'll tell you why.
I agree with Hayes. I'll tell
Every
Marcus later.
everybody that has played or attempted golf seriously has told me it is the hardest sport they have ever played,
It's definitely the
and I'll
most
tell you why.
enraging.
It's
I'll
not.
tell you
That's
why.
not true.
I'll tell you
I've
why.
played golf
Physically,
seriously before. I know I'm cutting you off. I'm the master of cutting people off, and I apologize for it. I've played golf seriously before. I've played baseball seriously for a much longer time, and I will say this. The experience I've had playing golf, sure, it is a hard sport to play. I'm not taking anything away from it, but the experience I had there versus the experience I've had playing baseball is far in amounts away harder than golf because
I,
golf you're hitting a stationary ball. I
time
mean,
out.
granted, I know it takes an immense amount of concentration to put the ball where you want it, but that ball's not moving 90 miles an hour at you. It's standing still. You
And I'll tell you why.
I
Here,
know. I
And
may
when
be
it,
let me hold
I
on.
when
Let
it
me
hits
turn
you,
that
it
around on
hurts.
you though, Chris.
let me make
Because
my
I mean, I
argument.
played both baseball and I played golf. I've tried to play golf seriously, and
Yeah,
I
you're on my
and
phone.
baseball is to me is much easier than golf. Golf is, in my opinion, the hardest sport to play.
And let me make my argument here. So, okay, I'm gonna take it in several forms and aspects and steps here. So, mentally, I think golf is the most difficult sport to play. One, you are on your own. You don't have any teammates. Granted, you have a caddy on the professional level, but I'm not really
If
going
you
to talk
make it
about.
to the professional
Yeah, yeah,
level.
I'm not even talking about the professional level right now. I'm just talking about if you're going out, if you're playing like for example in college. I feel like college golf, amateur golf is some of the toughest to play because mentally it is a battle. One, you have no ability to lean on any human error. You are playing an inanimate object, a golf course, and the golf course is your enemy. So you
Well,
cannot rely
okay, come on.
on
Every you
you
play on
cannot
every inanimate object.
no, no, no. But so you're essentially you're playing against the golf course. You're scoring to see what you score on the golf course. So the golf course in any way cannot make a mistake. It is perfect. It's set up to attempt to trap you.
That is true. I
And
get your
so
point.
and um, so you are on your own, and you know that it's all up to you. You can't lean on anybody else. If you screw up, it's your fault. And so that's why it's so mentally draining is because you it's it's hard to say because there are so many different aspects to it. In golf, you have so much time in between shots, and it's free time where your mind roams unlike in any other sport.
Um,
Mentally,
uh, I'll let you finish.
mentally golf is the least instinctual game that you sport that you can play, and that allows your mind to roam and the your mentality to roam much more and much worse than it would in any other sport. Instincts are much easier to. An instinctual game takes away the mental game much more than a non-instinctual game. If you're understanding what I'm saying. Instinct is just your human nature to do something, you're reacting. In golf, there's nothing to react to in a fast manner. You are standing over the ball, and then you have to force yourself to swing the correct way and hit it in the spot that you want to hit it to 300 yards away. And okay, so let's go to the physical part now. That's just the mental part. Physically,
I think UFC's the hardest. Now that I'm thinking about it.
Physically, golf is an exact science. It is more so an exact science than baseball in any way because, one, the ball is a lot smaller and the swing is a lot longer, as well as the club is a lot smaller. And you're a lot farther away from the ball. You're essentially 5 feet. You have a 5 foot pole between you and the ball. So you have to Andy.
Andy.
What? What? I wasn't laughing at. Oh,
Andrew.
Andy, so
not talking about that.
So there are so many different factors, and there are a lot of people who don't play golf don't even understand the different factors, the wind factors, the factor of the swing plane, the angles in golf. I've looked a lot into the science of golf, and even a 1 degree difference on a putting stroke on a 4-foot putt could make the difference between you making and missing that putt. So and then you got to read the greens. You can miss putts by a millimeter that would cost you a tournament. There's so many different factors in golf. The mud on this one side of the ball could cause it to go on the other side of the course. There are the winds, the weather could play a factor.
So passionate.
You're playing on a different course every time you play. The field is completely different, so you have to change your strategy and your playing style everywhere you go.
Hayes, are you
All right,
done yet?
Hayes.
Can you let somebody else get in?
Hold on,
Thank
I've
you.
got one more
Okay,
thing.
I
Wait,
apologize.
this is the
I
kicker.
apologize for you people, but I'm going to say.
This is the kicker.
I'm going to say what I'm going to say really quick, and then I'm going to turn it over to other people.
I'll be
But
finished
Hayes,
after I
everything
finish
that you were saying applies to the game of baseball as well.
No. Let me
You
finish
play
right
on
here.
a different field every time. I know you
It's
play
essentially the same
8
field. Essentially, it is the same baseball park.
Get into
It's
that.
the
No,
same
not true.
defense.
Not true. What if the one baseball park has their field cut in a
It's
checkered pattern, while the other one went for stripes?
Oh my
The
God.
outfield
Wait.
pitch is different for every single field you go to. I'm not getting into that for a second. Also, you said you don't
you didn't let
have
me
to
finish.
rely on
You
you
didn't
can't
let me
fall on
finish.
human error.
Hayes, you
Granted,
went on for like
if
5
you're
minutes.
playing by yourself, you can't. That is the case. But in actual competition, there's a ton of human error in the sport of golf, as is there a ton of human error in the game of baseball. Everything you were saying applies to the game of baseball
where's
as
the
well.
human-
You have to take into factor the wind and the slight degree change of the slight nanosecond change of when you hit the ball, if you even hit it.
The wind
will change
the wind does not affect a baseball like a golf ball.
That's just incredibly rough.
For one, it's a lot
You don't-
shorter range.
I want to see
so there's a lot less
time.
time for it to be effective.
Hayes, I would like to see a source on that one.
I want
Thank
to
you,
see a
Andy.
source
Also,
on that
you
one.
didn't,
I
you
really
didn't let
do.
me
No, I'm
finish.
serious.
You didn't even let me finish, which was my
finish.
my
You've been going on this
biggest
soliloquy.
my
to quote
biggest point.
Are you
I
two
know.
done?
My biggest point. Let me just say this here. Jack Nicklaus. Okay, in a golf tournament, you are facing over 100 other individuals who are on your level. It is the streakiest sport. It is the streakiest sport.
Streakiest? Is that a word?
Yeah,
Yeah,
streakiest.
no.
It's the streakiest sport. So, Jack Nicklaus, the greatest player ever to play the game, wins 10 to 15% of the time. What other sport in the world does the greatest player lose more than 80% of the time?
Well, you can make the case for baseball. They only actually hit the ball at a very good rate. It's 30% of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're Hall of
You
Famer.
fail
And-
7 out of the 10 times, you're considered a great baseball player.
And let me expand on that. That's only the hitting aspect though as well. There's a lot more to baseball than just hitting.
I
And
know.
so pitching and fielding, what's difficult about that? Why does that make
What's
it more
difficult
difficult
about
than golf?
Oh, there's
pitching.
nothing difficult about it.
What's
Okay,
difficult
pitching,
about
I can agree. That's hard. That is not easy.
Fielding, I can understand. It's a lot easier than pitching and hitting. But
Pitching is
fielding
not
still
easy.
takes an insane amount of
Not more
talent
than
to actually.
golf. Not more than golf. Like where's
You're
the
not-
complexity?
Can I throw
Here's
in
the thing
another sport?
as well. I'm gonna turn this over to other people and then react later. But my last thing about golf is
If you
golf is an
fail,
old man sport. You are not seeing
is- That's
You're
so
not-
like
Are you
not.
kidding?
not
That's
not
so
saying only old men play
unbelievable.
golf. I'm saying you're not going to see a 65-year-old man go out in the in MLB and perform to the top of his level. But you can see that in golf. And I know I'm not saying every 65-year-old man who ever played golf can play in the PGA Tour, but it's
Well, for one, that's a
that
major
just kind of
rarity,
throws it off for me.
and that even shows you that talent or golf takes not only an innate talent, but it also
art.
takes it's an art. It's a skill that you
It's an
really have to develop.
I
It's
love playing
something that
golf.
just doesn't come
It is-
overnight. I'm telling you, if you take out somebody who's never played baseball or golf and you ask them, all right, in golf, I need you to go shoot a 70, that's going to take a lot longer than trying to hit a 95-mile-per-hour fastball.
Okay, let me.
Okay, with the Chris,
You're relating two different things here. I'm sorry. I
That's
keep
two
saying
different
I'm
things. So I mean, shooting
But
70,
you're-
hitting a baseball going 9 miles an hour.
okay.
It's kind of
This would be
But
a more accurate
it's a developed
representation.
skill that you have to
Shooting
learn.
70 and batting 300. Those would
Yeah.
be more similar than what you were saying.
Nah,
Christopher,
we
the
change it
whole
to
point
like
you're
shooting like
making-
a 65 and batting 300.
Anybody can play golf. I'm not saying any. It takes practice for both. I'm saying it would take less. I know I'm not taking anything away from the sport of golf here, but I'm taking it. I'm saying it would take less amount of practice to excel heavily at golf than it would to excel heavily at baseball.
I don't agree with that one
No
bit.
way. Are you kidding me?
I
Okay, what do you
don't
say?
agree with that, Chrissy.
Can we
Chris,
get
for the whole point-
can we get
Can I
off
throw
golf,
another sport in,
please?
please?
Ben talk.
Please.
Throw another sport in. By all
Dive,
Hockey.
I,
diving.
thank you. No, whoever just said hockey
That would be
hits
me.
it-
I just
hits
thought of
it-
it. That's
Okay,
Whoa.
you think about hockey. Think about how many things you have to do at once. You have to skate well. You have to control the puck. You have to skate fast. You have to avoid players trying to throw their bodies at you. Hockey is by far the sport. It's the best, perfect mix of skill
What?
and it's a perfect mix of
no.
skill.
Okay, don't laugh at him.
For
I
those
can agree
guys-
with what he's
For
saying.
those
I can agree
guys-
with. I'm actually listening to his points and not just scoffing him.
Oh my gosh.
Also,
No,
It's
okay.
not-
I'll
technical
put
skills because
those.
not everywhere has a slot of ice.
For a casual hockey watcher and somebody who just like happens to watch a game because they see it on at a bar or on at a restaurant or whatever, or just happens but doesn't really intensely watch it or has never played it, never experienced it. It is so hard to get good at because the guys who play it professionally start off playing like at a semi-pro level when they're 16 years old and they're 18 years old, like 17, like at those levels they start off very young playing it because it's one of the hardest sports. If I would put it up there as the hardest sport to go pro in.
So does every other sport, though.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
not-
I'm not an
you're
athlete.
you're
that is
acting
not,
like
that's not that,
I
that's
mean, Ben has a good point with the hockey thing, but that thing about starting young.
that's
you're-
not true.
Yeah,
No,
that's-
there's a difference though. There's a difference though between playing at 16 years old in like your rec league. These guys are playing semi.
But what
These
about
guys are
baseball?
playing semi. These guys are playing
Baseball,
semi.
you sign when you're 18, 17,
Yeah.
18 years
Well,
old. You get the
but
minor
not
league.
everybody does
technically
that.
that takes away from what you're trying to say.
I'm
If
not
you
saying
can play
everybody.
semi-professionally at 16, why is that?
No,
Yeah,
no,
that was
you're not.
my
You're not
point.
letting.
I
You're not letting
took
me
a note.
finish. You're not letting
It's
me
a
finish.
look. They have to resort to those 16 and 17-year-olds because there's not a giant pool of players that they can choose from. They have to get those players because those are the players who are good now because not everybody's good at hockey because hockey is a terribly what am I trying to say?
Terrible sport.
Well, and
No, it's a terribly hard sport to play.
No,
I-
well, it's
I-
also not as
I-
popular.
hockey-
as,
No, here's the
Terrible
thing.
throwing.
Here's the thing. The guys who are playing semi-pro are like in Canada, and there are people like in Russia, and people playing in all these different leagues. Those are just the leagues you have to play in to get drafted. If you're not playing in one of those leagues, it's very unlikely that you'll end up signing with an NHL team or that you're going to get drafted.
It's the same for every sport.
That's how hard of it. That's how. No, it's not.
That's not true. You don't have to
That's
go
not
through
true.
semi-pro in basketball to be
You don't-
drafted into the
football-
NBA.
football,
You don't
you
have
don't-
to go through semi-pro in football to get drafted in the
you have to go through
NFL.
college.
Okay,
What
first
about
of all,
That's not
Hey,
semi-pro though.
I know,
That's
but it's
not
still the
semi-
same kind of.
No, it's not. It's
Premise.
not.
No,
at
it's
all.
not.
No, it's not.
Explain
You
to
guys
me how it's any
look. Here's the thing.
different.
You guys don't have any respect for hockey. I'm not saying you
Well,
have no
hey,
respect
well,
for hockey. I'm
well,
saying
well,
you don't understand because you guys don't watch. I don't watch it either. I'm looking at it as like, oh, I'm gonna listen to Ben and see what he says, and I
I would-
agree with Ben.
I have something.
Christopher,
to
you
say
act
with
like
hockey.
we're-
I lived in
Think
Maine
baseball
for
Like,
7 years.
if you trust me,
But I give hockey a lot of respect.
Hockey is probably the only sport out there right now that you could step onto the ice. Like I could give any of you guys a pair of skates and a stick and tell you, all right, go out there and play it, and you're not going to be able to play it well. It takes
Wrong.
a long
So you're gonna
time.
tell me
How every
It
sport.
you're
takes-
gonna
it
tell
takes-
me you're gonna tell me you can
Every-
walk onto a golf
Yeah,
course
that's
without
way
ever
out.
telling anybody that has ever played golf, and they're gonna hit
Oh
it well.
yeah, Hayes is totally right. Like, oh, ooh.
Have
No,
you
no,
seen some of the
totally
I
people
played
play
golf for
golf?
days, and I'm still like that.
You're gonna
Here's the
Hayes. But if I gave you a pair,
relative because that applies to every sport.
if
You
I
tell
gave-
anybody who's never played the sport to go play it, they're gonna be terrible when they start.
but the
So
difference
that-
between
that
the difference
part-
between
You can
No.
at
The different-
least no
the different-
the difference here. Let me explain here. The difference here is in a lot of sports you can lean on your athletic ability. In golf, it's not that. You can't just lean on your athletic ability to
yeah,
be good at it.
but hockey's not a typical athletic ability sport. It takes years for players to develop the ability to be able to skate. That's why guys, it's a sport. This is a sport, and you pretty much anybody will tell you that's played hockey and that knows about hockey that you have to start playing hockey when you're young, or you're going to
Golf-
be way behind everybody else.
Golf
You're
is
gonna
the
be
That's
golf
same
is the
for every
exact
sport.
same thing.
Yeah,
So it's-
And baseball is the same as well. It applies to every sport.
And,
And I'm
it
not-
applies to
actually not 100% because basketball.
Look at football.
like a lot
There-
of a lot of great NBA players started playing when they were 17.
yeah.
Like started.
And
You
I
know, that's for
Basketball's
basketball, but no
easier
one's made that
sport.
case for the hardest sport.
I think basketball's one of the easier sports.
I would say
Exactly.
I actually
I
think
think so.
basketball is the easiest sport. And
If
But
I
it
can
has the
start
best
on a basketball
athletes.
team, it's pretty easy to play.
it has the best athletes, I think. But
I like it.
I would
It's
say
fun.
it's the easiest to
I think it's
get good at.
it's just 'cause none of you guys watch hockey that much.
Whoa,
I'm not-
whoa!
I watch a pretty good bit of
Get
hockey.
out of this.
Get me out of these cables.
I practically lived in Canada for 7 years. Okay?
Is that Isaac
I
talking?
know hockey.
No, I'm not disrespecting hockey in any way. I'm sure hockey is a very difficult sport to play.
Oh, it is.
I don't watch it a lot, and I'm not saying I do. I'm not an expert at it in any way. I'm just saying
Can we all
that
agree?
I'm not sure it's a lot different than a lot of the other sports we're talking about.
We just all agree
I
that
think
sports
it
are
is.
not
I would
easy.
even go to saying it's even a
Thank
little
you.
bit.
I think it's a fair argument. I think it's up there, but I wouldn't put it over baseball or golf.
I would put it over baseball.
up there with baseball. I still think golf overall is the hardest to play, but I just think
Okay, let's put it this.
We're
Let's
all
put it
wrong
this way.
because
I-
it's the
let's put-
series
let's
of
put-
poker exists.
let's
That's the
let's
hardest.
put it this way. Maybe golf is the hardest mentally to play, but I would still say hockey is the hardest physically to play.
I would agree with that.
yeah. I mean, I think we can all say that.
I think hockey is the perfect mix of like skill and speed, and just it has a whole lot of it going for you because it is not easy to get to the level that some of these players you see at, and even then it's still very hard. It's still very hard to really break
there's-
out.
But
and
I would even say, like
you
how
know
he
what-
said that you had to be in like different leagues, like you're saying in like Russia and Canada. That's not typically true to get into the AHL. I know a slew of people who've gotten straight out of high school to the AHL.
You know,
but that's
in the PGA,
that's because they've been scouted and things like that. Like it's
you know the
But
PGA.
if you're what I was saying is that if you're not in one of those leagues, if you're not in like the QMJHL or you're not in the AHL or you're not in like in one of those leagues like that, you're probably not going to get drafted. Like it does happen. Like sometimes there'll be a really good guy who goes to like Penn State or some school that's actually got a solid hockey team. But most of the time, if you're going to college, you're playing club hockey, and club hockey isn't going to get you drafted into the NHL.
You know that there's
my thing
only
with that is that if you're playing basketball, odds are if you're not a great player in a top tier conference, then you're probably not going to get drafted. That's the same thing as hockey. Those top tier conferences are
And the
glorified
point is, like,
semi-professional.
if you're going to like
Yeah,
a
but there's a
college-
difference.
If you're playing for like a college in hockey, you're probably gonna be in like like you said, the QMHL or the AHL. You're not going to the NHL. It's the same thing with baseball. If you're
It's a
if
minor
you're
league.
playing college baseball, you're not going to get drafted to go play for the Yankees. You're going to.
That's not necessarily true. It's another one of those things. It depends on how high you get drafted. Usually, like the guys who get drafted in the top 10 all come in and play in the NHL day one. I can't remember his name now, but I know who he plays for. He plays for the Coyotes, I think. He came in and he had an amazing season this year. He was like the number 1 overall pick. Like it just depends on where you get drafted. And I think
also
you made the comparison about basketball, but the basketball scouting network is so much greater than the hockey scouting network that it's a lot easier for people to find these guys.
Well, that's just because baseball is a more popular sport.
I'm talking about basketball, but that's
basketball is more.
I didn't make a case for basketball. Basketball is one of the easier sports to play, and I mean I wasn't making a case for basketball at all.
Well, and the PGA Tour has only 150 members, and you have to go through crazy qualifying just to even reach that tour. I mean, we're talking about the majority of professional golfers don't even reach the PGA Tour. I mean, you're talking about the European Tour, the European Challenge Tour, Web.com, mini tours like the Hooters Tour, stuff like that.
Hayes likes that one.
And I think
No, he doesn't.
Well, one of the things you were saying about college though too, that it's similar to the NHL. It's not because
I said it was similar to the semi-pro leagues.
No, but it's not though, because any guy can apply to a college to try and get in, but not every guy can be like. There's no way. No, you can't.
Any guy can't play big-time college basketball. That's not true.
You can't. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying any guy could apply to like a Big Ten school or whatever and get in there and then try and make it as a walk-on onto the team or whatever, things like that.
But if you weren't scouted beforehand, you're not going to make the team, and you're not even going to be a walk-on. There's only 15 spots on a basketball.
Very true, 100% true.
Yeah, if you're not scouted beforehand, there's not a chance.
There have been no walk-ons that haven't been like scouted or anything, have just come and played at some rinky-dink high school.
Yeah.
Have made a team. That's literally like never happened. You've been scouted by someone.
Even if you're a walk-on.
Exactly.
Yeah, and consider this as well, like in basketball, there are 30 teams, 15 players a team. There's about 450 guys in the league. PGA Tour has 150. The NHL has 23 players per team. So that's approximately what? And how many teams are there, Ben?
30, I think.
30
I think 30, yeah.
So close to 900 players.
So you're talking 900 players. There are 750 more players in the NHL than on the PGA Tour.
Well, I think, all right, you know what? I think we already did agree on it earlier that hockey physically is probably the most challenging to play, but mentally golf is, and this podcast has run incredibly long.
Can I make a case for another sport?
Go for it, Nick.
Diving.
There we go. This is
the precision.
But exactly, like the precision. Every inch of your body has to be in perfect alignment at a perfect second in time.
This is the conversation that
you have to bend.
You're either perfect or you're awful. Like every dive, it's either perfect or it's bad.
We have reached the climax of our podcast. We are talking about diving, fellas.
Yes. I think you mean the culmination point, but anyway, you ultimately. We'll let you guys decide. What do you guys think is the hardest sport? Leave it in the comments below or in the.
If you're even around to this point.
This has been a wonderful episode of podcast with various forms of subject changing, host changing. I think we started off with Hayes as the host, and kind of Isaac took over in the middle, and then I'm wrapping things up here because I'm tired.
Yeah, what's this all about?
I tried to wrap it up, and nobody let me.
But anyway,
I say let's let Andy close this one out.
Andy, close this out.
Oh, wait,
the Young Speak podcast with Hayes, Rule, Ben Goldberg, Nick Ollinger,
what's going on? I was prepping
and
everything.
The person who's about to take it away, Andy Neas.
What's up?
Wait. Before we take it away, make sure you check out the Versus that's going to be probably going up tomorrow, because I totally school Chris in that.
Not gonna lie.
Spoiler. Spoiler
It's not
alert.
gonna-
Spoiler alert.
They want to check it out and see what happened.
All right, to wrap
Oh,
us up, Andy need us. Andy, send us out.
Hey
Andy,
there,
send us
everybody.
off.
This is DJ Andy Wack, and I'm about to close out here. Thanks for listening. Later.
I expected
Well-
so much more.